And welcome to the Ask More Questions podcast. I am here today with Grant Randall. How are you doing, Grant?
I'm doing well, Gene.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that. Now, I'm acting real formal, but the reality of it is you and I have known each other for a very long time, all the way back to our hometown. Didn't know so much each other so much whenever we were young,
Mhm.
but there was still plenty of like middle school stuff. We didn't really know each other, and I was a little older than you, so we probably
Little.
bypassed each other. Hey, stop it! But
No, it is funny because people are like, you guys have known each other forever. And it's weird. Like, there's a lot of touchdowns. We can use a lot of names, a lot of places that we'll know.
oh, absolutely.
Really didn't happen for us until music. And I think we were both out of high school at that point.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
I
but
was just
but like
about
you
out.
said, we had these touchstones that just
Yeah.
happened, like like your dad's shop and stuff like that, and about how you almost killed my dad and that type of thing.
That did happen.
Yeah.
I
So
forgot.
yeah.
That's a fact. Yeah.
uh, for the listeners, your dad owned a service station, essentially.
Yeah.
And
Mechanic, tires.
yeah,
Yeah.
tires, all sorts of stuff. And then
Yeah.
my dad was it the ice cream truck?
It was the ice cream truck,
Okay, so my dad
which
had
makes it even worse.
a side gig ice cream truck
Yeah.
thing that he did for fun and needed tires changed, and then got home. And what was the deal? Like, found out that the lug nuts weren't tightened.
Oh, he didn't make it home.
Oh, he did make it home.
Oh, he made it
Oh.
about 800 feet, I think. He got out of the parking lot on the Main Highway. That's how far he made it. Well, no, and I was like, it's a huge part of my life, and we'll probably talk about it on this podcast. But I started
Yeah.
working there when I was 12, like a grown ass man.
Oh, wow. Well,
And it was a great lesson.
yeah.
My parents gave me. But I don't know if a 12-year-old should be changing tires, like unsupervised.
Yeah.
And I had very few mess ups. But your dad of all people, that was like each one. That's no. There's
of
two.
all people.
There's another one. No, there's two.
Yeah.
Your dad's would be one of those. And I just put the new tires on, put them back on the ice cream truck. Never tightened the lug nuts. never tightened them up. He made it out of the parking lot. It could have gone so bad.
So bad. Yeah. I mean, although that thing didn't go very fast, so it's not like he was going to be, driving fast down a highway or anything. But which one was it?
Your dad knew what he was doing, and he kind of felt things were not right.
Was it the big one or was it the smaller?
I think it was the big one.
Oh, that was an international step van. That thing was huge.
And I mean, honestly, probably that weight might have been what kept the tires on.
Yeah, probably.
So you could get down there and jack it up. Yeah.
Those old, I think it was like 1949 or something like that. It was really old. And, so everything back then it was all metal. I mean, there was no plastic or anything. So you're probably right. It probably like kept it together a little bit, but it probably had a little bit of play in the driving experience. Yeah. I think those experiences, I bet you never made that mistake again, did you?
No, I did not. No.
I had a similar thing.
Scared. It's like a scared straight moment.
Yeah, I had a similar thing with the oldest. Her battery was dead, and I just went to Walmart. Is pretty close to me, so I just went and just got a new one. I said, "Hey, put one in." Actually, she did that, but what happened is that it was dead like the next day, and so I come home from work and charged it up, and then I said, "Oh, I gotta go," and then I'm going to go take it over there and have them take a look at it. Like maybe the battery was no good or something like that. I didn't even check the connectors, but whenever I did notice that, of course, teenager, she's riding on fumes. So I stopped by the gas station real quick, and then I went to go start it up and it was dead again. I was like, damn it. So a guy gave me a jump, and whenever he did, that's when I noticed that the connectors, they weren't even really tightened on. They were just like plopped on there on the battery. And I'm like, well, I could go home and I could fix this, but there's a teachable moment here that I think I should drive, take it back and just not be mad. I wasn't a dick or anything like that. I was just like, hey, I got this thing. I just want to make sure that everything's cool, knowing that I'm like, listen, if I just take this back and leave it on the charger and tighten the the bolts, it'll be fine. But yeah, they took care of it and everything's cool. So I
It's
think it's important to take those teachable moments when you can, especially if you can do it in a way where you're not a jerk about it. So I'm
how
glad
else do
Dad
you
was
learn?
nice to you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Mistakes are crucial, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine wasn't teachable. Mine was a 12-year-old should probably not be told that at a company. We would go out into the fields and we would change split rim tractor tires. Like
Oh my
you could go
gosh.
on YouTube and watch people dying, like having their,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
should have been doing that.
Oh, well, we'll get into that a little bit
Teachable
about
moment. You
how
know?
this is part of the growing up in a small town. So we're
Or
both
as
from,
your name states in the podcast, Gen X.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
we were
Tell me
it's
about it.
the classic, you got on the
But
bike and didn't see anybody for 2 days. Like,
those are good times, and nobody
they
could
were.
track you. And all of our misdeeds are not available on the internet.
Yeah.
So that's what's great
I
about
would
it,
be in
you know.
jail
Yeah. Or not alive,
or not
maybe.
alive.
Famous last words. Well, this should be fun. Anyway, but the thing is, you and I have talked about this in the past, just about religion and stuff. We've lived together with a couple of other guys, and we had theological debates, and not really debates, more discussions. Really, it wasn't like we were trying to. Maybe we were a little bit trying to right the wrong of the other one, who was obviously wrong. But over time, you drifted away from that,
Yeah.
and then it became very clear that you were definitely not a believer. Would you call yourself atheist or agnostic? Which one?
I mean, getting into the labels,
Oh, wait, yeah,
there's finer points to this, and I like to, I mean, if we're going to set a boundary, I guess mine would be an atheist is the correct term,
yeah,
and I know you're a details guy, your
yeah.
famous story of, it was not a whale, it was a fish, you hold
Yeah.
people accountable to
I was
details.
very adamant about that. Yes.
Yeah. And I think if you look at the correct definition, theist, not believing
Right.
in a deity,
Yeah.
so be an atheist.
That's all it means. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't believe in any
I think
gods. So.
because of confusion and trying to like explain yourself, I've probably identified more as an agnostic. And that really goes back to the classic, what's before the Big Bang? What's the great mover?
Yeah.
And is that a rabbi with magical powers or is it a computer simulation? I don't know. But,
Right.
it's like, is that atheist or is that agnostic? And
Yeah.
you know,
I saw Ricky Gervais once talk about that there's really no difference between an atheist and an agnostic, because if you're agnostic, you still don't believe in a God. You're just saying, well, I'm open. And
yes.
any atheist that you talk to would tell you, listen, if you got good proof, like if I had real excellent proof, then I would be forced to no longer believe but accept it as fact, right? So, I mean, that all makes sense. I will say that if you say you're agnostic, it's probably a little easier to go down because of, thanks a lot, Billy Graham. I found this article last year and I hope I saved it, but it went back to like Billy Graham talking about atheists and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, people were born atheists. So,
no, I think you nailed it though. It goes down a little easier. And I do think too that, again, going back to, is it a generational thing? Is it a geographical thing? Atheist was up there with, I mean, there are a lot of other isms. There are a lot of other things that you could be, against, that people were more open to than atheist where we grew up. Atheist was so foreign, so alien, so beyond, it's like even where we are, they were like, well, we could probably overcome our racism, because they at least believe in God.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It is one of those things where it just it's also misunderstood. It's there's this thought about like, oh, well, you must hate God. It's like, I don't hate God because I don't think he exists, or so it's such a weird term. And maybe there needs to be a marketing shift. Maybe call it like nuns. I've heard this, which I think is confusing for those who come from the Catholic persuasion. But NONE, nuns, like I don't believe in anything, or just unbeliever. I'm a non-believer. That type
unbeliever.
of thing.
Well, Vampire Weekend quote. No, it's. I mean, it's semantics. It's semantics, and it depends. If I'm talking to you, I'll say atheist. If I'm talking I'm talking to my mom, maybe I'll say agnostic, so she doesn't break down.
I have your mom on the list of things to talk about. Great.
Oh
So
God,
we'll
yeah.
get to that.
Oh, that's a
But
3-hour podcast.
yeah, let's go back to the very beginning. So at the beginning of time, no. Tell me about your early memories of like belief and, like with the church that you were raised in, that type of thing.
Yeah. So raised in Assembly of God, which is Pentecostal, short of snake handling.
Just short.
Just short, which that was one of those things I didn't realize until I got older. I would look at those people as crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But then everybody I knew was speaking in tongues and laying on hands and everything. I was like, I got a little older till I realized we were just a couple inches away. We were, some of our people probably went to those churches at times.
Right.
Not to sidetrack, but I was actually at a dinner at a conference recently, and a guy I work with, he went to Oregon State, and something had slipped out. I don't talk about religion a lot, but there was drinks, and we were talking about like, trauma and various things. And I brought up Assembly of God, and it was fascinating to hear him say, he had a sociology professor at Oregon State, and he wanted his class to experience extremes and to experience other cultures.
So
and there was a list of things you could do.
Yeah.
And it was like, there was like a Tai Chi class. And then there was like and there's one of those was to go to an Assembly of God church. And that's what he,
wow.
Like, it was just kind of weird to hear 30 years later, like how I grew up on the list of extremes that you could go see to like experience different cultures.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, that's the church you grew up in.
And your dad called it what?
The ass of God.
The ass of God. Yes. That's hilarious. Well, your dad had a sense of humor. So, I mean.
Yeah. And that's another part of this podcast, I'm sure too, is the dichotomy that I grew up in, is that it was the fear of eternal damnation, Assembly of God, fulfillment of the Holy Spirit on one side. The other side was mechanics and rodeo and really cool music. And his church was Sunday morning being on his horse and not going to church.
Yeah.
So I got to experience both sides. That's probably helped me a lot.
Yeah. Do you remember a point of whenever you became a Christian, decided you were a Christian? How did that work for you?
No, I think it was just, we always were.
Okay.
I don't think you had a choice.
Yeah.
It was not, I wouldn't say it wasn't thrust on you. It wasn't like you're going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, talk about formative ages and how our minds work.
Oh, yeah.
And the first things you remember is, if you don't believe this, you'll burn in eternal damnation. Well, you're going to be a Christian. Like, easy choice.
Pretty easy choice.
So there was never,
yeah.
There was an idea. I'm like you. I said the sinner's prayer. Actually, would you like to know where I did that?
Yeah, sure.
First Baptist Church in Baxter
Springs. First Baptist Church.
Wayne Williams.
Oh.
Or was it? What was the name of your dad's church?
No, Wayne was mine, but then Fred something was.
It was whatever one Wayne was. It was yours.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That was
Fellowship Baptist.
Yeah, Fellowship.
Yes, so there. Yeah, you weren't there, but I was just little. But it was at the church you grew up in. But it was much more like I still remember being super uncomfortable, even at like 7 or 8 years old. But it just felt like it was totally fear based. It wasn't like coming into the arms of the Lord and this amazing, the angels are celebrating and all the bullshit that I was told. It was 100% fear based. It was like, I was old enough to make the decision, and I better make the decision.
Right.
Like, what might happen?
Well, one of the things that I'll need to talk to Axel about is that I didn't realize that Catholics, I had another guest that was Catholic previously, and that Catholics, you're just like, you are Catholic or you're not. There wasn't like this idea necessarily. It's like you're still Christian. I mean, I define Christian now differently than I did back in that day, but I define Christian anyone that believes in Jesus, right? And it's only the people that are really into believing Jesus that they really differentiate. Like, oh, well, did you do the Romans road and all that kind of stuff? And
we argue in a vacuum.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So, well, that's a nice little memory that, you got your start of deception at my church. That's great.
Yeah. I'm sure your mom and dad were probably in the front row.
Probably so. Was it Vacation Bible School?
It wasn't, but I did go
Oh.
to vacation Bible school there.
Well, who didn't? I mean, that was just the thing to
Everybody did.
do. Yeah. It
Yeah.
was actually fun too. That's the weird thing. I don't have a lot of church hurt or hardly any. It was like minor things here and there. Nothing.
Yeah, I'm the
I
same.
realized, nobody abused me or, made me feel bad or anything. And I feel terrible for people that went through that kind of stuff. But, for us, it was just a way of life, like you were saying.
Yeah.
It's like, you
there's
rode
a
horses
different kind of abuse and trauma that I know you've talked about and I could talk about, but it's much more psychological. And
oh yeah.
And the people perpetrating it were not doing it maliciously. They thought they were doing the right thing. So yeah, but we were lucky in that we didn't experience greater trauma. I guess I don't know what to call it, but
so you do you say the prayer. Now you're a Christian. You're going. How many times a week did you go? Huh?
Me?
Yeah.
You probably had me beat.
Yeah, unfortunately,
because I did a lot of faking stomach aches. I did a lot of
good for you.
It was like I always had to walk this tightrope of my dad was a beast. And if you stayed with him, you were going to be like tying down cattle and vaccinating them and like riding bulls. And it's like,
yeah,
fuck. Okay, well, I can do that on Sunday morning or go sit in this pew.
Yeah,
and it was 50-50 every time. Which one was worse?
Yeah, I could see that. I'd probably.
We were very Sunday morning.
Okay, very Sunday morning.
And then my mom would go through spurts where we hit all the revivals. If there was a revival, we were there.
Oh yeah. I don't know that that's a common term. So I'll probably just mention that right now, that a revival is a fabricated event that churches do to increase marketing. But to them, it goes back, and everything falls back, I think, a lot to like Billy Graham and some of those preachers, because he would have big tent revivals, right? Mm-hmm. They had big tents and people would show up and talk about God and all that kind of stuff. And eventually that led to his crusade. Ugh, I hate saying that word now, but and he would fill big venues. People
stadiums.
Would come, like back in the 80s, that was a big deal. He was a largely influential person.
70s
and 80s.
60s.
Okay. Yeah. So
thinking of the whole Truman incident, but yeah.
Well, we'll get into that. We'll get into politics later. But I don't normally talk about politics, but with you, how could I not? Yeah. So,
revivals. That's where we were.
Yeah, revivals. So your mom insisted on going to all the revivals?
Yeah, so we would do revivals. The other irony of the revival is it's all about the witness and bringing new souls to Christ.
Right.
And we grew up in a town of 3,500 people, so I don't know exactly who wasn't saved at that point. People just kind of traded off churches.
Did you ever invite anyone to come to a revival?
Oh God, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I did
that was
too.
the Great Commission.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, you really need to be saved. Could you not go to your church and come to mine instead? Like,
yeah. See, but proselytizing was a no-no in the Baptist church. Like, you weren't really supposed to go out and talk to other believers, which is weird because at the same time you weren't supposed to do that, but they were still wrong. So
we followed the Great Commission.
Okay. Well, that's
which
nice.
Had nothing to do with sales. It was Jesus went out and quote unquote commissioned and so we were supposed to as well.
Right. Go therefore and teach all nations. There's nothing in that verse that says stand on a street corner and yell at people. Isn't that kind of weird that that verse gets twisted around to be you should go knock door to door? I realize there's some other passage where they did go door to door, but I think that was limited to maybe that particular event rather than a everlasting let's do this forever and annoy people.
So unfortunate that verse got twisted around because the rest of the Bible usually just comes across crystal clear.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Crystal clear. That's usually how I describe the Bible. Oh, this is going to be fun. I'm not even drinking. So, all right. So you do this, but I don't think you were as insane as I was.
No, my insanity came later. You were definitely more insane than me.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
But what role did religion and stuff play in like high school and like undergrad
Um,
for you?
yeah, that's a good question. And it's a little foggy. It was the classic, kind of Augustinian, um, I do the things that I don't want to do. Like, so it was always there. It was always, there would be the spurts where I would go every Sunday. Sometimes I'd even play, with the band. I'd be reading the
Yeah.
Bible and then immediately go back to being a kid, and like
Uh-huh.
doing all the things I wasn't supposed to do. And I fell in with like the crazy kids and the popular crowd, and I liked being gregarious and charismatic. So I would lead us all down a bad path, and then I would have to repent and feel terrible about myself. Um,
Backslider.
yeah, and it was just a constant. My entire middle school, high school would have just been the roller coaster of, being a kid and then realizing kids are going to burn in hell. Um,
Well, yeah.
yeah, as my therapist once said about my relationship with God, he said, it sounds like it was an abusive relationship. I was like, no truer words have ever been spoken.
Yeah, I mean, because you do have this. I would call Baptist and sounds like Assembly of God as being high control,
Oh,
meaning
yeah.
that it really is about almost like an invisible watcher of your thoughts,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
whenever you go to do anything, there's and if you do something that might be outside of what you think, and that's subjective, like what you think is wrong, I mean, very subjective per like denomination, I mean, because
Yep.
some denominations you got to uh, wear certain clothes or don't wear
Hmm.
certain clothes, can't listen to certain music, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it can lead to a lot of guilt. And
Oh,
I
100.
mean,
That was it. Yeah. Maybe that's a better way to describe my high school experience.
yeah, so you end up having guilt for just being human
Yeah.
and doing, and I bet a lot of the stuff that you and I have done is nothing compared to just people that are actually bad, or
No. And that's what I made
do
that
actual
comment.
bad things. Yeah.
Instead of saying it was the roller coaster of, guilt ridden, burn in eternity,
Yeah.
repentance, versus I didn't say it was like this incredibly depraved. No, it was just being a kid.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
like the most
Yeah.
normal being a kid.
Right. That's what
Like,
it steals, I think, from
yeah.
kids. Did you ever burn any CDs or tapes or anything in the
No, and
parking
I
lot
was
of your
lucky. I
church?
know music is a big part of your podcast. So I was really lucky. I think there's probably sexual trauma. Again, nobody touched me, but more of like, we don't talk about this. There's no,
Yeah.
like my church was really into that, and so
Yeah.
then you grow up with this guilt of even thinking anything, so there's
Mm-hmm.
that. There's, that's a big one that comes to mind because it's a fun one to talk about, I guess. But there's also other elements of trauma.
Yeah.
Music was never one that hit me. And I think, again, this is credited to my father.
Uh-huh.
So I grew up with my mom where you had the Gaithers and the, and you go Google that if you're listening, you don't know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. I've seen the Gaithers in concert. Thank
Have
you
you
very much.
really?
I really have. So,
They can say, that's,
down in
but
Tulsa, I
anyway,
think.
you have all that. But I also grew up with my dad, listening to Bob Dylan and Paul Simon and Stevie Ray
Yeah.
Vaughan and Led Zeppelin and the beat, and like, this was I mean, I still remember, I was thinking about it the other day, an REM song came on, being like, I don't know how old I would have been, young, and
Mm-hmm.
him buying the green cassette, which is kind of the cassette that took them out of the radio, like the indie radio, into the mainstream where they were really selling out
Yeah.
major places. And Michael Stipe was out, and it was like, and I'd never heard anything like it. And so, yeah, I'm this fundamentalist evangelical kid, but I'm also
Yeah.
listening to Pop Song 89 and Orange Crush with my dad, and
Mm-hmm.
so we always
Yeah.
had that balance. I was lucky to have that.
Well, I like that, and I'm glad that you guys got to share music. I've always felt like Dad was pretty not fond of my music, regardless of what it was.
You're a
I
little more
mean,
of a metal guy, though. That's
yeah, but I mean, even the Christian metal. Well, I mean, but you had the
Paul
early
Simon
rock
is just
stuff, like
digestible. I don't know if a striper to the
yeah.
list.
But I mean, even Petra. Whenever I
Yeah,
first, you remember Petra, like that was
I
still
remember
kind of
Petra.
like, ooh, not sure. They were very mom and dad were kind of standoffish about that, like I don't know if this is right, but then dad would listen to his 50s and 60s music,
I was
And
getting ready to say that.
So
There's a thing. Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but there's this Christian approach to. I don't know why this is weird to us. You create God in your own image, and whatever you like, we can pass it off as Christian, which is why your dad was doing 50s music.
Yeah.
I still remember after I got saved at your parents' church, and I got to go to Precious Moments and pick out a Bible.
Oh,
and
wow.
this thing still hit me where it was like, my grandma was going to buy me this nice Precious Moments. And then again, Google it, listeners, if you don't know what it is, the freaky little people with the big eyes.
Yeah.
So I wanted a green. It was like lime green.
Uh-huh.
And there was just it came from Precious Moments. It was the Word of God, but we didn't do lime green Bibles. That's not.
Oh.
It was almost like that's something God wouldn't approve of. So much like the music, it's like, I'm like, fucking, this is the fucking same thing. The cover's just green. I was not allowed to buy that Bible. We compromised and I got a dark blue instead of like black or maroon. But I'm like, who sets the God's color choice here? Like, what are we? And it's the same with music. It's like, well, maybe if this was singer-songwriter and it wasn't Christian, I could swallow it. But Petra's that's a little rock and roll. I don't know if God likes rock and roll, even if the lyrics are Christian.
Well, it's funny. Like, I wouldn't consider like Cash a Christian musician in any way, shape, or the form, right? But clearly,
that's an interesting topic.
Like Johnny Cash had some sort of belief,
very much so,
in God that he kind of kept close to the chest. You know, he was like, "This is
let it all out."
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you know, I wear the black for the poor and beaten down. You know, I mean, like it came out in other ways, and so
also came out very authentic with him. Which is different.
Sure. Yeah.
The poor and beaten down is not anybody the modern church is concerned with. You know,
I need to find you a green Bible now. You know,
don't waste your money.
Well, I mean,
but I also wanted to throw in too. My mom did make me take back a Public Enemy cassette because it had a. I think one of the first things I ever purchased was "It Takes a Nation of Millions." But it came from Walmart with the little explicit.
The parent advisory sticker. Yeah.
That just meant you should buy it. Line was parent advisory.
Yeah, that's great. Any Christian T-shirts back then? Probably not. Like probably no. See, man, you got off so easy. Man.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I didn't get extreme till college.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get into college then. Sounds like you got to coast through the younger years. Jesus.
Listeners could see how jealous you are right now.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about college then, and I guess we should differentiate because you have what's your highest level?
JD.
Yeah. So you're not nothing. You've read some books.
It's lawyer.
Yeah, lawyer, Juris Doctor. Yeah. So okay. So whenever you say college and you're getting deeper into it, are you talking about undergrad then?
Undergrad, 100% undergrad.
Okay.
Yeah, I think law school pulled me out of it.
Well, that's fair.
No, and the fascinating thing there was, again, it's you're leading up to undergrad is that kind of vacillating back and forth of living life somewhere in the middle, then going to repentance and guilt, then going back to drinking and doing something crazy and girls, and then finding a balance, and then so it was just this constant rotation that so many kids in my position went through. And so when I finally got to college, I think it was kind of the impetus might have just been like, moving out, being in a different city, meeting different people. And I think when that happens, you have to start kind of making decisions. Maybe you're moving into adulthood a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was Pascal's wager. It was essentially, I think I was like, okay, if this is real, I don't know if this is real, but if it is, it's a pretty fucking big deal.
Yeah.
Like and I was even looking at Christians and saying this. I was like, well, no, if Jesus is what you were saying he is, that should be the hub of everything you do. Like everything should come out of this. And so I was kind of like, I was not maybe at a point intellectually or curiosity wise where I was disproving it. So I went the opposite direction. Again, kind of took the wager, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go all in and see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm going to take an assumption that this is real because I'm kind of exhausted of like walking that tightrope, and the roller coaster is getting really tiring. So let's just fucking get off the roller coaster. Let's go all in.
Yeah.
We're going all in for Jesus, baby.
Mm-hmm. All in.
It's
and it doesn't hurt that you're completely surrounded down in southeast Kansas, southwest Missouri, those areas, northeast Oklahoma. You're surrounded by like-minded people. Lots of churches. I mean, that's just kind of like salt of the earth stuff.
Well, and this has always been one of my problems with the thought process down there, is this almost arrogant belief that we've been given the truth. Like, it's Jesus and it's this denomination. There's a large Catholic, like if you get into that Pittsburgh Colgan area, and there, but it's very much a kind of an evangelical, even the Baptists are a little bit on that, wacky side.
Oh, sure. Oh, definitely so.
And so there's just kind of like, well, this is the truth. Of course. And I'm always kind of like, but you don't think it's weird that you think this is the truth, and you were born into this with all people who look like you, all people who speak like you, all people who think like you. And you're in this fishbowl, and you know there's something else out there, but you're convinced this is it. There's nothing else, and I have the truth. Yeah, and I'm like, you don't. I mean, I just like want to shake them. I want to be like, maybe it is the truth, but just look over the fence one time, like.
Yeah, and it's funny, like going back to the wager, Pascal's wager, that it's funny that nobody ever thinks, well, what if my God is the wrong one? Like that's the rebuttal is, the thing that Pascal didn't think about was, well, what if I'm believing the wrong God? What if
it's always kind of a binary approach.
What if there's
God or nothing is the wager?
Yeah, there's that South Park episode where they go, people die and go to hell, and they're like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? And then there's like this guy, and he was like, oh, I'm sorry, the correct answer was Mormon. So they're like, oh, we thought we had it, So yeah, everybody's right. Then there seems to be this not only that you have the truth, but that, and this is the same and different, that you're right. Like, I'm right about this.
Capital T truth.
Yes. Big T. Yeah. And so, and we know all of the things this book tells us. This is how the world came to be. This is how humans, why we exist. And they're just so sure, 100%. We don't even have to think about it.
And a couple of things with that too, the bother. And we're going to get, like, we should probably wait and talk about like my kind of dismantling that. But it's like, it was always weird to me later to look at it and be like, the conviction is so strong, but the understanding of it is they know more about what sitcom they're watching than they do the actual how the Bible came into existence, or this, yet the conviction is it. So that part just really bothers me. So there's another part of that, like that extreme conviction. And I heard Chris Hedges, not Hitchens, Hedges talk about this once.
Okay.
Where it was like, that's kind of antithetical to faith. Because faith, if you go through Hebrews, the belief in things that we cannot see. Yeah. It's like, and so there's this, I don't want to call it beautiful, but like faith done right is kind of this, it's about hope, it's this, and we talk about faith and how I was brought up, and 2 seconds later, we absolutely fucking know.
Wow. I hadn't thought about that before. Yeah, that's true. There is this weird dichotomy going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Because there is a lot of that. There is a lot of, we have faith. It's like, if you want to live day to day, we're absolutely sure. But if you really get pressed, it just you just have to have faith. It's like, okay,
hold up. No, I was really sure, but you're asking pretty deep questions now. And I got hit with that, by the way. That's and we get into another big piece that got me away from the church was that right there. But we can get into that later.
Okay. Were you involved in any like campus groups or anything like that? I mean, I went to a different college.
I don't know, for the good of the podcast.
What'd you say?
I like how you're asking as if you don't know, for the good of the podcast.
Maybe I can't remember, dude. I'm getting older, so
So I went out, and I didn't actually go to a church. I went to I guess what is the church? It's the body of Christ. So I guess I did go to a church.
Okay.
And it was a campus. It was a campus ministry.
Okay. Yeah.
But a campus ministry that was connected to the church,
Yeah.
at least to the church at large that I grew up in.
What was it called?
The
Do you remember?
What's that?
Do you remember what it was called, or at least called?
Chi Alpha.
Chi Alpha. Okay.
Which is very confusing because it harkens to Greek, but it's on a college campus. So is it a fraternity? But it has nothing to do with fraternities or sororities. And looking back, very confusing, or maybe that was the point.
I think it's the point, because I think that part of that is it's like, oh, we're in a way like a Christian fraternity, kind of like you have Christian metal, you have Christian authors, you have Christian rap, Christian t-shirts. There's always got to be a Christian something to counter the world, and so, and in Pittsburgh, whenever you drive down, is it Broadway, and you see the campus, there's all sorts of like fraternities. I mean, they're just facing you, so it makes sense that you would kind of want to get in that way. That's very
same as driving down. Was it Kentucky in Lawrence or New Hampshire? Not New Hampshire.
Yeah,
Kentucky or one of those. Same thing.
Yeah, one of those college rows that has all the fraternities and stuff like that. Yeah, and you see all the Greek letters, and you're like, oh, I know what that is, but this is different,
we had shirts with the Greek letters, had nothing to do with fraternities or sororities.
Okay.
Yeah, so but got involved with that, and immediately felt at home, probably because a lot of the belief was the same. It was coming from the same denomination.
Okay.
So it wasn't a stretch. I knew all the ideas and, the way things were taught, and certain things that were left out, certain things that were important, all made sense. And it was a cool group of people. Even then there's 4 or 5 people in there, and I have not stayed in touch with them. And, for obvious reasons, I'm sure they're all still believers, and that would be weird. But it was a really tight knit, like,
why would it be weird?
It would be weird. You've talked about it yourself. But it was a good community. It was, there were some really, really nice people that became great friends, and it served as an amazing community as far as that goes for a couple of years. But of course, being me, I couldn't just sit in the back and read a Bible. Within a year, I was preaching, leading worship, singing and guitar. Like, I'd just completely done that bullshit thing that I tend to do charismatically, where I'm just like, if I'm going to be a part of this, I'm fucking taking over. And I did.
Sounds about right.
I was on stage with the microphone. Pretty in short order.
You were always pretty comfortable on stage with the microphone. So
way more comfortable there than behind the scenes.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Which, eventually somebody has, like, that's a whole other conversation. One that I've had many times is kind of the con man, Steve Martin leap of faith. If somebody has those natural abilities, how much does that play into what's going on from behind the pulpit and how you can lead people? That's a whole conversation.
Actually, I was just thinking, as you said that if you were solid in your unbelief, that it would be a good grift to go to college, get involved with these groups. You've always got like somebody to call if you ever need somebody to help you out with something. Maybe, I don't know, maybe people aren't as giving as they used to be.
You learn the key phrases, you learn how to press certain buttons.
Well, you and I could easily grift today if we wanted to. It would be and this is what people, this is from James Kennedy to everybody involved. This is a grift, that. I mean, go to Oral Roberts, which again, amazing porn star name, but it's all a grift, and you can grift people, and because I've taken this now, and again, I was a true believer. I was not grifting. I was not a con man. I think I was inadvertently, but I believed 110%. I was not trying to trick anybody. But you can take this, and it's interesting. I've taken these coping mechanisms, and now I teach emotional intelligence. I teach body language. I teach people to communicate. Yeah, that is scary.
Can do this in a hospital or at a grocery store or with your family, and read body language and understand, and for good purposes.
Oh, absolutely.
When you go to a group of evangelicals, there's a fucking checklist. This is taking candy from a baby. Like they are in tune to being conned. That's what they're asking. They're asking you to con. And again, I know we're not talking politics yet, but my God, how easy is it then to put on a red hat and just pull you right into the bigger group?
I know.
When you've been hungry for it, you know?
Yeah. So you do all this stuff, and then eventually you make your way to Lawrence, and that's really where
That's where all that.
we did have, I guess we did back then, because you and I were both playing in separate bands, and we had a big festival at the town that we
Oh, that
grew
was
up in.
pre-Christian. I mean, I was Christian, but that was before Pascal's
Oh
Way.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
I was still dabbling in the dark arts.
But I mean, as far as our interactions, like they kind of started to get formed. But really, whenever you moved to Lawrence,
that's kind of where we really met each
and
other.
then
Prior to that,
yeah, and then I moved in with you and a couple of other guys. I mean, that's where things kind of like amped up, because you've been left leaning for, I don't know, was that normal in your church?
No, and that's that's a weird thing to have somebody that was an Assembly of God Democrat. That's that's a huge oxymoron. And I guess the only way to explain it is we grew up kind of as an outcast, being liberals where we grew up.
Yeah.
But my parents and my grandma was they were Roosevelt Democrats. They understood how the middle class was built.
Yeah.
They saw this, and there's several things happen there. The Democratic Party does go away from the middle class at some point, especially under Clinton. You also see what Reagan and kind of that how do we get a bigger voting bloc? We're going to go after Christians, and that wasn't Reagan was the front man for that, but this is Atwater, and this is the whole, the post-Nixon, post-Vietnam move, and they did it brilliantly.
Yeah.
So several things play into this, and it's like mine kind of stuck to it. Like I was reading Woody Guthrie, Bound for Glory, in middle school. Like we had these deep Oklahoma kind of, which now is like the biggest red state ever. But like back then, like you talk about Woody, you talk about Roosevelt, like this is how I grew up. These were my roots. And if you're truly reading the Bible, if you're reading the Beatitudes, if you're reading, the Gospels, it's Woody Guthrie and Jesus are not that far apart.
No, not at all.
It's like you really see him living like Christ. Now, especially in 2025, you talk about it and it's like, there's nothing further, than the Christo-fascist, power grab versus what Jesus actually taught. So we were more like, we're liberal because this is what Jesus actually taught.
Well,
at that time, you didn't get a ton of pushback in the church. Politics just didn't come up.
Yeah.
You did not talk about politics in the pulpit. You would lose your tax-free exemption.
Exactly.
It was like, we were surrounded by Republicans, but it didn't divide us then.
Yeah, I don't remember ever discussing politics in our house. But I mean, to be fair, Reagan pretty much, I mean, he had a large red voting bloc back then. That was pretty much the entirety of the 80s. And then, Bush taking over after that, Bush Sr., still red, but then starting to become more purple in a lot of ways, too. But yeah, I never once thought about anyone's political, except maybe in government.
Well, and at that time too, they weren't targeting social issues as much.
Yeah, the culture wars hadn't started.
Expedient the culture wars ramped that up. Again, brilliant, fucking evil.
Yeah,
but brilliant. Like, all right, well, we're not getting anywhere policy wise because this is actually fucking the middle class. But what if we could villainize gay people?
Right.
What if we could villainize brown people?
Yeah,
even better. And it was like, and then you started the culture wars, and and I kind of graduated. I still remember a book, like that first book about culture wars. What was that called?
I think it was called Culture Wars.
I think it was called Culture Wars.
It had like a black cover or something, and
yep. It came out as I graduated high school, so it hadn't quite taken root yet. The way it is now.
Yeah. So you come to Lawrence, and like me, maybe you were probably more comfortable in Lawrence. For me, it was kind of a shock because here I've been pretty red, had been registered as a Republican. I mean, since I was 18. I mean, I used to watch Limbaugh for fun back in the day. I just feel dirty saying that out loud now. But and then we moved to Lawrence. It's a college town. It's more liberal. I didn't really know what that meant. I just knew that at that time, the thing that seemed to be taking the most shape besides gay people was abortion and the thought around abortion. Because I remember living with you, and you had this sign that it was like the Kansas Young Democrats or something like that, and you had placed it in the front window of our house. And then I would steal it and hide it Do you remember
Yes,
that? Yeah.
I do remember that.
That was, I mean, I was being playful, mostly.
It pissed me off so bad.
But I also can't deny how much that was probably more driven by my faith and religion or sticking dogmatically to it rather than politics itself.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry
there
about
was
that.
no understanding of what was the policy discussion. It was
right.
It was a writ large tribal thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was part of that Jim Wallace Sojourners, God is not a Republican or a Democrat movement. Again, really weird that I was connected to Assembly of God and believing that.
Yeah.
That's kind of an outlier. I know that.
Yeah, that is very different. I think it has to do with, like you already said it, but your Oklahoma roots. I think that at least from that time period. But yeah, Oklahoma's really red these days. It's
it wouldn't happen today. If I grew up today, if I was in high school right now, it would not be an option.
Yeah.
I'd be completely ostracized for those beliefs.
Yeah. So in Lawrence, you're doing all that, but then at what point do you start to really question some things? Do you think the culture wars had an impact, or politics? Because you've always liked politics, got involved in politics, ran for office. We won't get into that, but I mean, it didn't happen. That's all we'll say, because it was a different time.
I still say one of my claims to fame is in the first district, I got more votes than Obama. Kind of crazy. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't know that.
True story.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was the only Democrat that even have a chance. But, other than Dave Groves, of course. But
of course, yeah. So, well, I mean, good for you. That's something. And it also is very revealing and should tell anyone listening a lot about the area that we grew up in.
Yep.
Quick side note. One time I was hanging out with some guys from college, and they're like, this guy's name was Marshall. And like, we're going to Marshall's, I don't know if it was his parents' house or whatever, some family. And man, this place was backwoods in like Jasper or Newton County. And, you're seeing flags and things that make you uncomfortable and be like, I hope we're not here for too long because I'm ready to get out of here. Clearly, they're living in the country and they're just as racist as they want to be, and they're fine with it. So
every time I drive through Missouri,
well, I mean, it's gotten a little better, I feel, depending on where you're at.
Last time I went over Thanksgiving, a lot of the signs were down.
Yeah.
A lot of the Confederate, didn't see nearly as many Confederate flags. There does seem to be a shift.
Yeah, there's a shift, but I don't know that it's, we're against this, but it's definitely more of like, we don't want to acknowledge that we used to be for it.
We're kind of very clearly bedfellows with Nazis at the moment, so let's take that sign down.
Yeah, let's take it down. But yeah, when did you start questioning things, like really kind of thinking through your own personal beliefs and your relationship with your faith versus, getting to how you kind of are now, where you're like, I don't believe.
So I loved, again, this is going to be weird connected to an Assembly of God, but I loved the intellectual piece. I loved the connecting, I know you're a big fan of, was it Hank Hanegraaff?
Hank Hanegraaff. Yeah. The Bible Answer Man.
Bible Answer Man. Mm-hmm. I mean, I listened to that like you would listen to Sports Center. Like he was amazing. And I love that idea. That's why I studied Hebrew, in undergrad. Like I wanted to learn, I had all the apologetics. I had all the exegesis. Like I loved that piece of it. And you don't realize till later that you're just comparing everything against itself. It's almost like we're in a gym playing basketball against the JV team. And like, we're putting articles in the newspaper and this guy scored this. We've never actually played anybody outside of our own team.
Yeah.
And it's like, but in the moment, it's really fun.
Yeah.
And then like all of us, we lived together, and we would have these, again, it wasn't really arguments. It was more debates and really fun conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever brought up Islam. Nobody ever brought up atheism. Well, it was all within this vacuum of us just talking to ourselves. Which would you also like to tell the listeners the name of that group, which I think you christened us?
Oh, the Old Testament Justice League. Yes.
Yes. So. The Old Testament Justice League. The OTJL.
Yeah.
That's where we were at that.
I mean, you had me Southern Baptist, which I would agree that a Southern Baptist then, I've started to recently figure this out, that Southern Baptists then are different than Southern Baptists today. And you're talking about, you're being kind of a weirdo with Assembly of God. Like you had your own little mix.
Yeah.
Axel was obviously very Catholic, and he was one
Very
of the
Catholic.
few Catholics that I knew that actually read their Bible. I mean, and
Intensely
studied it, intensely. And then, K-Man, I'm not using real names here for obvious reasons, but because they didn't give me permission, nor do they know we're talking about them right now. But, I don't really know if he had a belief other than, being Native American, he probably had some other influences from his own
I wouldn't want to
past.
speak for him.
Yeah.
He would show up at church every now. I think as you just grow up in it, it's kind of in the water,
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in the water where we grew up.
There's a lot of stuff in the water.
By the wrong phrase.
Well, considering you live not far from a Superfund site, that's
the largest Superfund site in the United States. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff in the water. An alphabet soup of chemicals.
Oh man.
But no, and we'd said that about Axel, about being like very Catholic. That being said, he was the best of us, so he shouldn't. You made me question, should I be Catholic? Like, he's a good person.
The way he would talk about it and the way he would bring his A game to discussions, he always had my utmost respect, and I was like, he's absolutely the best Catholic I know, aside from maybe his dad. But yeah. And so I remember us having, we're living together, and every once in a while would get into these discussions. We'd have discussions about Mary and just cultural issues. And I don't ever remember them being times that we yelled at each other. Granted, we did have to pay rent together, so maybe there was something to that. But it's a shame that it doesn't seem like you can have that these days. It seems difficult to have good conversations.
I think there was a common respect, probably
kind of cheating.
It was probably cheating. And also we all found it so fascinating. I think Axel was probably further along than most of us in his belief. He was going to the Ingle House. He was, he was studying. You and I were deep into it, but we weren't looking at doing it as a job.
Right. That's true. He did consider the priesthood at one point.
Yeah. And then I, of course, applied to seminary, and we can get into all that. But we all clearly found it fascinating. And we were all clearly at a point in our kind of a turning point in our life where, I went all in, like I said, with Pascal's wager, but I think we were all kind of doing that. We're all feeling our way around.
Yeah.
And, so it was kind of a beautiful thing. The sad part looking back is that it was just masturbation again.
Yeah.
Because there was no real intellectual pursuit, because we were not questioning it. We thought we were.
Yeah.
But we really weren't pushing any limits.
It's like a bunch of Star Wars nerds getting together and talking about, what influence midichlorians have on a person, and are you born with them, or is it, emanates around you or whatever.
But that can be really fun.
People can be fun.
That can be a hobby, and it can create community, but you don't then take that outside of that community and try to weaponize it. That's the problem. They don't think Star Wars is real at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, there's probably a small subset that they're like,
there probably is.
This might be real, right? But you're right. It's the weaponization where it starts getting everybody against each other. I remember going.
I think I started this podcast. I think I used the term "fucking idiots." I shouldn't do that. Because there are people. I look at people like my sister. I look at people like a really good friend of mine's wife who prays before dinner every time we eat together, but very silently, and like you'd have to catch her doing it. And those two people have kind of a beauty. For them, it's about this hope, and it would be the same if we meditate. It would be the same if they do not weaponize it. They do not go after anybody. You probably wouldn't even know they were Christian unless you pushed them. And so that is a beautiful piece of it. It's the weaponization, but weaponization has become kind of the standard of the day. So I'm not giving them a pass. At the end of the day, the bad outweighs the good.
Yeah. But okay, so ass of God was probably like me, where you believe that the scripture is inerrant, or
Oh, absolutely.
at a minimum, it's true, right?
Yeah.
Like it's all true. It really happened. Like the whole Noah
Yeah.
thing definitely happened. Adam and Eve
Oh, absolutely.
talking
Yeah.
snake. Whereas
My
there's
mom recently went to the Ark in Kentucky, and I live
the Ark
about an hour and a
experience.
half from there. She's like,
Yeah.
"Have you not gone yet?"
Like, oh, I was going to, and then I realized it cost money.
Yeah. I got busy. Sorry. I got busy doing literally anything else.
I didn't realize until after Dad died that whenever we were cleaning out things, and I was like, oh, they went to Ark Encounter. So they went without me
That's
because
what it's called. Yeah.
Ark Encounter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, we got way off track. We want to go back to
Oh yeah.
when the cracks in the dam
The
start
cracks.
happening.
Yes, the cracks. Yeah.
So yeah, so because I was going out, I was learning Hebrew. I was studying, like, cross-referencing everything, really getting into like world religions. Thomas Merton entered the vocabulary.
Right. I
Seven
remember
Story
that
Mountain,
time. Yeah.
Living Buddha, Living Christ, Thich Nhat Hanh. This guy who was an amazing Catholic, but would entertain other belief systems and found congruencies in these things. And so that led me to start asking questions. Not to and I didn't want to tear things down. It was the opposite.
Yeah.
I was like, how can we shore this up?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, interestingly enough, at that time, and younger people listening to this would just be fascinated that this is even a conversation, but gay marriage was a big deal.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, you literally heard people say, well, if I can allow a man to marry another man, what says he can't marry his dog? And
they'll be marrying trees next. No, you're absolutely correct.
Those were real
thoughts.
Arguments
Yeah,
real
arguments.
At that time. Important people who had a voice. And so my thing, honestly, and it wasn't, it's malicious, yes, but in my head, it wasn't malicious because I was saving them. It was like, okay, this is an argument that is happening, and the church has to answer this. So let's shore up our argument.
Yeah.
Why are we, if we have capital T truth, why are we afraid to ask questions?
Right.
So let's go into this further. What did Paul really say to the Romans? How does that connect to this? And I would push and push and push and push and push. And I still remember one of the last conversations I had with my mentor, and a great guy. I'm sure you remember him. Decent basketball player. It's funny now that I look at him with gray hair and everything. And it was like, he was this wise. I'm 5 years older than he was at that time. It's one of those things. Like, it's like, my God.
Yeah.
But I still remember studying with him and his wife, and somebody who I would always go to, who was so intelligent and so well studied, but again, well studied within the vacuum.
Right.
So when I stopped letting him do that, and again, not maliciously, like I just was well, no, how do we get outside of this bubble and ask these questions? I was told essentially that's where the faith kicked in. Again, you mentioned it earlier in the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, because we're asking too many questions, and almost not just like a pat on the head. You're asking too many questions. Almost this is offensive to God.
Yeah.
If you're asking these guys,
how dare you?
How dare you? How dare you question?
Which
and
is
in my head, I'm like, fuck, it's God.
Yeah.
What the fuck is he afraid of? And it's always a he, by the way. But what the fuck is he afraid of?
Yeah.
I can't ask him a question.
Yeah.
We can't come to an agreement on this. And I was like, oh, that didn't end it. There are other things that happen after that we can talk about too that are very interesting. But that was the first, like, punching a hole through the dam. And it was just like, oh, these people I trust that seem very intelligent will not answer this question because they can't.
Yeah. I remember that period of time, and you exploring, learning about things like Buddhism and things of that nature. And, for me, I'm like, he's going down a dark path. Obviously, obviously I feel a little different today, but because now I'm probably studying more about other religions than I have ever in my life, because I find it fascinating. I find the power of religion to be truly fascinating, and how we have concocted these different things, and also how cultural they are. I think they're different from culture. I don't like to lump in religion and culture because then if you start to be anti-religion, then you sound like you're against their culture and stuff like that. And I'm not that way. I just see it as like, this is just how
Culture in
you
2025 is what you're talking about.
You're what now?
Let's get through the religion part, and I can tell you why culture and religion are the same right now in the United States.
Oh, okay. So that's how I view it. Obviously my opinion is not 100% right to my knowledge, but that's how I view it. But yeah, I remember you doing that and getting into the Buddhism thing, or at least exploring Eastern thought a little bit. And then, I'll let you pick up from there, where you were going about like starting to deconstruct. We didn't have a term for that back then, but that's totally what you were doing. You're absolutely deconstructing all of the thoughts. Yeah.
Fear-based deconstructing too. I know you've been through this. I think you were the same. There wasn't one giant moment, but there's there's bigger and littler moments.
Yeah.
All these moments come together and you realize later you were deconstructing. You kind of start stringing that pearls together.
Yeah.
So the other one too is that, so I actually, kind of another wager, which is just a great way to, to gamble with your eternal salvation. Was like kind of like, okay, well, I'm either going to law school or seminary and I'm applying, and I got into KU, which I really wanted to go to for law.
Yeah.
Got into like Assembly of God and got into Fuller. But my big one was Princeton Theological.
Ooh.
And it was, and it was, Elaine Pagels was there at the time, and it was like I really wanted to go to Princeton Theological. Didn't get in. Shocking that the evangelical poetry major didn't have what it took to get into Princeton. But at the time, it seemed like quite a slight. But that set me down the other path. I'm like, well, this is a sign from God then.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I'm an idiot. That couldn't be the case. It has to be, a sign.
Yeah.
So I went to law school, and there it started these conversations. And I think it was, and some of these people are my best friends to this day. Nobody was mean about it, but they were all just smarter than me.
Yeah.
I know that sounds weird to say. They're just smarter. And
maybe I've always found you to be very intelligent and bright. So if you think that they were smarter than you, then you're just like, wow, I feel owned.
Wisdom is realizing you know nothing. And it's like,
and
so you can be intelligent and speak out when it's your turn and when you see certain things, which was very easy to do within Christendom, not hard to do at all.
Mm-hmm.
But when I had to step outside of that, I'm like, oh fuck. Like they've been studying other things, and like, and none of them were, if they were Christians, they weren't strong Christians, and several of them were atheists.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, I was like, oh, you're atheist? Like, so you're going to like sacrifice goats and tell me why I'm horrible? And they're like, that's not what atheists, we just kind of don't care.
Yeah. We just,
it was like,
just don't give a shit.
Yeah. Cause I had, again, that idea of what an atheist was, the boogeyman.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, they're just really intelligent and kind of indifferent to me.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, they're not trying to beat me over the head. They would answer my questions. Now, my mentor couldn't answer questions, but these people could.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then you're like, oh shit. So that starts that. And I'm sorry, I saw you typing. I didn't know if we needed to cut.
Oh no, I'm making a note. It made me wonder, is there a chick track about atheism? Because because I want to find it and read it.
Yes.
Because I wouldn't be surprised, because there's gotta be a root of where this comes from. And that it comes from
fear.
Well, I know that, but I mean, like deeper than that. Like where did it originally start from and then really start to expand? I was thinking Billy Graham, but then you said that, and it made me think about, for some reason, like chick tracts and about evangelism. And so there's something where you and I had this idea that if you didn't believe in God, that you must be a really angry, hateful person. You spend all day miserable. And maybe sacrifice children on the weekends for fun.
I know I can say, and again, this is like, don't be aggregating me, and I could get canceled for this, and it's very much probably, and again, it's our experience. My parents had friends who were black. We knew people who were gay. We knew, and all of those things. And again, anybody listening is like, what's the big deal? Well, you didn't grow up where we grew up.
Didn't grow up where we grew up.
Super racist, super bigoted.
There was one black person in my high school. at the
Well,
time that
and
I
the only
attended.
reason I knew we knew gay people, they weren't out. It was like I knew them through a teacher who said they were
Oh,
gay. And like, so you
yeah.
had, but even that was acceptable. We did not know atheist.
Mm-hmm. No, it's
Like
true.
I can pick any people group or demographic, and I can tell you somebody that I knew,
Mm-hmm.
except atheist.
Well, and our mentality was you weren't really atheist. You were just, you just hadn't found God yet. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You're
Yeah. Even
lost.
if
That was the
maybe because
word.
we didn't believe in atheists, then yeah.
Yeah. Well, there is something to that, you know.
It also happened too, though, it's just a little bit before, which also was a major event for me before I got to law school. Myself and Axel were working for, what's it, SGA, SAG, the student union, SUA, student union
Yeah.
activities,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
which famously brought some really fun bands, you know, and it was all that
Yeah.
stuff. But we also got to do like, forums. And so,
Okay.
of course, I was going to infiltrate the student union activities, and we couldn't have a Christian forum, but spirituality. You can say
Spirituality.
spirituality.
Yeah. Well, there was that
So
ecumenical church that was right there on
across
campus
the
that,
street, you
yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
created Are You Spiritual, the forum. And
Ooh.
we had a Buddhist and a Muslim and two or three Christians, because we had Catholic, we had Assembly
Uh-huh.
of God. They came all the way from the seminary for me. You know, I had them
Yeah.
come.
Oh, wow.
But we also had an atheist.
Yeah.
And we had PhDs, we had people from the community, people from, like I said, outside of our community,
Mm-hmm.
represented in this forum. And they were and it's really kind of cool to think back on this, that we were able to pull this off, in a
It
large
is.
crowd in a theater. And they were all asked the same questions, and they all had opening statements and closing statements. The atheist, with all of these PhDs and professors and seminarians, it was an undergrad that was like the vice president of the Atheist and Agnostic Society at KU.
Yeah.
So it's a kid in a jean jacket in a white t-shirt, and he fucking waxed everybody.
Oh, yeah?
I did the questions. I set it up to make sure we won. And it was just, I will never forget, like, just watching this and these people with these degrees and these years of experience. And he wasn't like overpowering them. It wasn't these Hitchens type art. He was just like kind of Socratic method. Well, okay, well, if you say that, then what's next? And like, very simple questions, taking them down these pathways. And this like 21-year-old kid, without being pompous, because of course atheists are pompous too.
Sure.
He was just and I was like in the back of the room, just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I think he's the best of this group. And I'll never forget after, the way the community, his atheist and agnostic community, it was so cool to see them in the crowd afterwards, like hugging him and being like, man, that was so cool.
You did it.
And we're all gonna go to the bar.
Yeah, you held firm, you know, and you didn't need to win. You just like you showed up, you know, basically.
But it also, I think, for somebody that came where we came from, others are like, what are you talking about? That's not weird. They're all buddies. But for me to see like authentic community outside of having to have this religious scaffolding, you know, and it was like, you know, and because I know you learned this the hard way, you pull that religious scaffolding down, all this community falls. Their community was not built on that. Their community was built on authenticity. And it just blew me away.
Yeah. Gosh, there's so much.
Because it didn't have to be predicated on a belief.
Yeah. That's the thing that I think is most damaging about all religions, is that if you end up creating
careful what you say, there's a lot of damaging, but go ahead.
Well, because what I think we need most, and it's a topic that comes up often on the podcast, is this desire for community, and also what was good about church. And often like community gets brought up, you know, and
community
it's key, man. Like, you know, you and I both moved 3 hours away, and then all you got to do is get hooked up with some of your people, and within probably 3 to 6 months, you're starting to feel kind of normal again, right?
So I've always said this about the Mormon Church. Again, they don't necessarily, parts of it are weaponized, but obviously internal mostly, but they're serious about the family shit.
Yeah.
Like in the Mormons, I know they're just good people. And it's like, no, it's a cult and it's crazy because of the belief system. But if you look at that community aspect of it, it's kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
There's a guy I work with in Texas who didn't get to go to his daughter's wedding because she got married in a Mormon church. She converted. And so he was like really pissed off. And I'm like, so what's it like? It's been a couple of years. Like, what's it like today? And he's like, I don't believe this shit, but I'm thinking of converting. Yeah, I'm like, really? Like, they have family game night and they're like, and they're all cool, and it's like, so yeah, that when you get the community part right, it's critical.
But what I like, that's what I think is most damaging, is because it's artificial. Like I don't get to know you and like, what are you interested in? You're like, oh, I like Woody Guthrie and Dylan and stuff like that, and I like reading Kerouac and whatever, like finding out who the actual person is. It's still within the vacuum, right? And then once the vacuum is
veil of Christian values,
right? Yeah. Or any other faith. Really, it all seems to kind of fall apart. And because you're right, once you pull the threads and the scaffolding comes down, there's a good likelihood that you're probably not going to.
You're just like, you're looking at each other. You're like, are we still friends? You just lost the whole foundation.
It's not unique to me either. It's plenty of people that were like that. So, man.
Yeah, I'd still say, though, the worst thing is probably genocide, but the community part is bad.
I mean, that's a tough call.
Community is big. And as you get older, you realize it even more.
I hope I could put a sarcasm tag on this on this episode. Like, please, we are not pro genocide, and it is not a laughing matter about what is going on. Except if we don't laugh at it, then we'll go crazy. So we're just trying to do a little something here. I
listen to this fantasy football podcast that it's like you hate seeing. I know you were an NFL guy. Like, seeing somebody get hurt that's horrible. There's nothing worse.
Yeah.
But you're in these money leagues where you're picking up people off waivers. So it's always like, the first reaction is, oh my God. And the second reaction is, how can I capitalize on this?
Yeah.
It's like, how can I make money off it? So it's like, yes, genocide bad.
That guy's out,
Genocide is bad. Let us
genocide
clarify
bad. Purity culture, thought control is bad. There's a lot of bad. But you do get community, get free coffee on Sunday. And donuts maybe, or bagels, little treats. That's not a bad thing, but I don't think it's enough, personally, now anyway. And this is the failure of once you come out of it, you're kind of like, well, what the fuck do I do now?
I think that's honestly, now I 100% committed. Like I said, we said many times on this cast, in college. But prior to that, I think that's why I never bought in, is because I never felt the authenticity. Because we were in a town of 5,000 people. Mm-hmm. We didn't hang out with any of these people outside of Sunday morning, and it just even as a kid, it was just a little like the small talk and and then when we go beyond small talk to this real deep stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to tell deep stuff to this asshole. We don't even like him.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it just kind of always felt fake.
Well, what about within your own church? Did you get together with other people?
I meant within my own church.
Oh, yeah, you didn't even have like people over for dinner and like
not those people.
Yeah. No. Interesting. No. So going back, and I should have mentioned that the time period that we're talking as far as like college stuff and all that is about early 2000s, so early 21st century. It would be awesome if that was recorded. Do you know if that was recorded, like that debate or that forum was
oh God, I mean, maybe we could go through SUA KU, but maybe
it's such a long time ago. Yeah, but and I kind of hate that I'm not or I wasn't then like I am now, because I think I would have really enjoyed a forum like that to hear everybody speak. Like my wife and I have been we just finished up the TV show called The Big C. It ran on Showtime back in like 2008. It's about it's the woman from Ozark. She stars in it. She gets melanoma, and it's 4 seasons long. And at one point it's terminal, right? And so she's getting.
I don't mean to laugh at melanoma, but I heard melatonin.
Oh, melatonin!
I was like, what show is this?
Yeah.
It took me a minute.
It's a show about melatonin. It's just 45 minutes of you watching somebody sleep. Oh man, that'd be awesome. Anyway, no, melanoma. So and it's terminal, and at some point she starts talking to some religious people just to get their ideas about things. So she brings in, actually, they come in to, she's in hospice, and a rabbi, uh, a priest, and an imam come in, and they're like, "Hey, this sounds like a joke," but and she just asked questions. And even watching that show now, I'm like, it's funny that I never questioned why are there so many different religions, uh, just at all, let alone denominations. I never really thought about that, but that's a side quest. And if I would have went to the forum like you're talking about, maybe that would have been a thought that I would have had. I would have thought, oh, it's very interesting that we have all these different faiths, and then nobody seems to be questioning. To me, it's all about which one is right, what is truth, etc.
Did you even question why we had so many Christian denominations?
No, I just knew everybody else was wrong. So
yeah,
I
mean, yeah, it's one thing to question
whatever that meant. I mean,
but like,
did that mean that they were wrong in the sense that they were definitely going to hell and we weren't, or were they wrong in the sense that they understood it incorrectly, but we're probably all still going to heaven? I think I leaned more toward that. That was my understanding. Like, well, their understanding is a little bit off, but we're all.
Who is that again?
Meaning that all the different denominations that we probably, I think that I had the thought that like Assembly of God or even First Baptist or some other Methodist, that we probably were generally correct in the belief, the main belief, Jesus, resurrection, etc.
Yeah.
But that our understanding was incorrect. So I hope I didn't feel that.
Kept your fingers crossed that the belief in Jesus was going to get them through.
Yeah, like that was going to be good enough.
But no, that's what I bring it down even farther. Like, of course, your question is the fun question. It's like, why didn't we ask how all these other world religions were? But I'm like, fucking just think about just the Christian denomination, the 2,000 denominations. How did that
there's
happen?
more than that.
Like, I mean, we didn't even question that.
Yeah. I would argue in this day and age, I mean, I've heard numbers as high as like 40,000.
Real. And again, it really just comes down to kind of like, well, I had another idea.
Yeah, because once you go, I mean, you'll have schisms over like what should we buy ceiling fans with this year's budget or not? And it'd be like, well,
no, my sister, I definitely can't use names or anything, but it's to say she's a teacher, and they're not going to listen to this, I don't think, these people, but there's a current fight going on.
Oh yeah.
In her hometown with the people she works with.
Yeah.
Because one of the pastors had the audacity to, not even part of the sermon, just in passing, brought up that maybe the rapture, as it were, isn't really in the Bible. Maybe it's Kirk Cameron left behind,
Okay, yeah.
Which you and I know, he actually was kind of right.
Yeah, that's a kind of a newer thought, really. The idea of the rapture apparently started
it's a very new
with
100 years old. It's an evangelical, United States based. Evangelical wasn't the term then, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But this fucking split, I mean, they are in a knockdown, drag out fight over this. Well, so it's and it's just like, and I just at this point in my life, I'm looking at it and being like, I would have been right in the middle of that, and that would have been it would have been all encompassing and important.
Yeah.
And now you pull back 50,000 feet and you're like, you're all fucking wrong. Like, what are you arguing about?
It's such a Han shot first debate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be the equivalent of that.
Yeah. Before Lucas remade it and then made it obvious that Greedo shot first, or Han shot first, whatever.
I don't accept those remakes.
I don't either. That's a false doctrine.
Yeah.
But
it just speaks to the fact of like, okay, this is capital T truth. This is the word of God. Well, except for I had this idea because I want to get divorced, so we're going to change it, or because I never had an abortion. And I'm not gay, so those are now the most important things. Right. Well, what about the lying thing? What about your wife isn't a virgin? Are we going to stone her? Well, no, because we all do that. So that's not the most important thing anymore.
Or divorce in the church. Like, divorce was always a huge no-no, very, very bad. And then people get divorced and they'll be like, well,
we can just pick and choose.
Yeah.
We can make up our own theology, and we never really question that.
How much did evolution play in your questioning? Because I feel that you kind of you mentioned that there were big things and little things over the journey, and you would make some things, some indications to me that you knew more about evolution than I did. And
I think,
maybe because you actually took 10 seconds, went to the KU Natural History Museum.
yeah, early, well, I mean, I had studied Darwin. Like I was always going after knowledge. And so where you talked about like our different denominations, Assembly of God was definitely start to finish. I guess soup to nuts is what you call it. Like,
Sure.
you, everything is true. And that's where we were talking about the ark or whatever.
Yeah.
I, again, being a weird ass of God kid, because I'd studied other stuff, I was fascinated with, the rabbinical aspects of the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And if you spend 30 seconds understanding, that teaching, you start seeing that these were morality tales, that it's metaphor.
Yeah.
You see Jesus talking in metaphor because he was a rabbi.
Mm-hmm.
So it was much easier for me to look at, for example, the creation story as a metaphor,
Okay.
and still believe in God and still believe all the way through, and the Holy Spirit and the Father, but some of these things I could see as metaphor,
Yeah.
and see why that was important. It wasn't a negative thing. But it was probably my closeness to the Jewish studies that I did, I came to that pretty early on. I was comfortable with evolution.
I think it was just that you were comfortable with it, and every once in a while it came up, and in my head, I dismissed it, and then it got brought back to the surface. I mean, when my son, during the deconstruction, as I'm heading toward the end, and at this point, I'm fucking frustrated, man. Like, I don't know what true is anymore, and I can't figure it out. And then he says to me, "Why aren't there any dinosaurs in the Bible?" And I'm like, "God damn it!" Like, I'm like, I remember being so annoyed, not at his question, but at that I didn't have an answer for it. And I said, "I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll talk about this later, and we'll figure it out."
How old was
Well, I guess he would have been 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But we've also
From the
started to
mouth
think
of
that,
babes.
yeah, he
Don't
retains
Google
a
that,
lot
by
of
the way.
information. He loves dinosaurs, still loves dinosaurs, can tell you all sorts of dinosaur names, And then
But you have a certain place in your heart for dinosaurs now.
I do, yeah, definitely. So much so that, like, after I realized that, I'm like, oh, I don't believe in this anymore. We went to St. Louis specifically. Well, it was not just for me; it was actually more for him, because there was we were gonna go see Imagine Dragons, which was his favorite band, at least at the time. I'm done.
That
How old
age,
did he
that's
get? Some of
awesome.
these, yeah, I know. So,
No,
but
that's
yeah, they're
band.
okay.
Yeah, it's
They're
great.
successful, pop, whatever. They're fine.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with them. But and while we're there, we went to this science. I think it's called, I want to say, Science Center of St. Louis, and that might not have been it, but whatever it is, they had a big T-Rex or T-Rex like skeleton on display that was traveling around all these different museums. And I stood there and looked at this massive beast, and I noticed one particular thing that really stood out to me, and that was the basically what I would call, I don't know what it is for a T-Rex, but the wishbone. I was like, that looks exactly like a turkey. And we had just, it was around Thanksgiving that we did that. It was in it was in November that we did that, and I was just like, I don't know how I missed this. Like, it seems obvious whenever you look at, like, of course, like the you see all these similarities, and for me, like, I'm a little envious that you got to accept that a
Yeah.
little sooner than me, and now I'm starting to learn more. I got a book from the library last week called "Why Evolution is True" that I'm
Science book.
yeah, it's just a science book for, like, people that don't know anything about it, and I'm like, well, I know a little bit about it. I mean, because we've since then been to the KU Natural History Museum, and they have
It's
this
not hard to find.
beautiful display that shows how we share 98.9% of our DNA with primates, and then you start to put the pieces together, right? So anyway,
And it was from studying, the Jewish scripture. And I think I was saying metaphor. Is allegory a better? What's the term I want to use? I feel like I used the wrong.
I think allegory is probably the better word.
Allegory is
Yeah,
probably the better term. So
yeah.
I'll correct myself there.
Yeah, metaphor would be like if it's like something. Watch me.
Yeah.
Somebody will correct me and say, "No, you got that wrong too." But yeah, so you understand. But then, okay, so if you look at all of the Old Testament as allegory,
Oh, you get to pick and choose.
Well, you do.
Still a Christian. So
Right.
you get to pick and choose
That's
what's
true.
right and what's not. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's
Stop with your logic, Gene.
how do you look at the New Testament then if you're
I think this had to, and again, this is not me obviously making the argument because I don't believe any of it, but I think at the time, what is it? Jesus is kind of the answer to that dispensational truth of like, he's the response, the scapegoat,
I was Baptist. We didn't believe in dispensationalism.
Okay. So, so it all becomes 100% true as soon as you start the Gospels.
It's almost like a switch.
And don't ask me to explain that.
Yeah.
I cannot because don't ask too many questions. That is not me making the argument. That is what we were told.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works.
No, and were you ever told that the reason there are fossils? I mean, I'm sure you got into that as well. Like Satan went around the planet and made everything look 4,000 years old.
No, I've never heard anything like that. No.
Yeah, no. Look this up. Yeah, put that in the show notes and look that up.
Okay.
One of the classic
the devil hid
arguments.
Fossils to trick humans. Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. This was serious thought. This was serious conversation. Still is in some circles.
No, the best I got was more. I always felt it was semi-logical. Is that in the Bible? I think it's Revelation that it says a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day, and so therefore, and here's the other apologetic is that since Jesus turned water into wine, like clearly you can have a miracle that gives the appearance of age. And so that's why the earth looks older than it is. So it is
and what's
amazing.
Interesting is at that time, that's where the thought stopped.
Yeah.
Where that should have ignited 10,000 more questions.
Right.
But but it was like, no, okay, that's good enough.
Yeah. Well,
all right.
And that's where Christian apologetics, I think, fails because they only want to get to an answer that seems good enough to maybe not be refutable. But then I wonder how much your law studies, you have to go through things like, I don't know, burden of proof.
Yeah. Well, no. And so if you want to wrap that part of the conversation up, and we won't talk about like, okay, so that, water to wine, one day is to 1,000. Yeah. So that's why it can look old. Mm-hmm. But the next part is why. This fucking, like, God's just into patina? Like, he likes vintage? Like, nobody, okay, what's the next key? Why? Why does it have to look old?
That's a great next question. Why does it have to look old? Why can't it just be like, well, we discovered that it looks this old. Okay.
Great transition.
That's a great,
because focusing on the why, which has become a part of my life since, not just with religion, but with everything. So I would say, there's burden of proof, all these things you study, but law school, way more than memorizing case law, it teaches you how to think. And for that, and all the lawyer jokes are true and blah, blah, blah. But like the idea of learning how to think in that way. So like our torts exam would be, it's one paragraph, and then you have to write for 2 hours. And it's like a car runs a red light and somebody hits the car and they get pushed into a building and it hits somebody, but it also damages like it's just string of events.
Right.
Well, now you have 3 hours to just walk through all of the things that could have triggered these things where, and so instead of just being like, that guy got hit by that guy, I'm mad, the whole vigilante approach. It's like, well, no, there's a myriad of things we need to consider here.
Right.
And so it starts teaching you to think like that.
Yeah.
The other why, and I think this was the big one, I think that kind of like pushed me finally over the edge, is I did a study abroad in Turkey, my 2L year of law school. Okay. Took out student loans because Ruth Bader Ginsburg was teaching. So I actually got to study under Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Worth it.
But also fell in love with a lesbian. So I end up on this trip, like, essentially come back to the United States and start dating a girl that I met there. Who was at that point in a polyamorous relationship with 2 women. I'm this fundamentalist kind of Christian kid figuring things out. So you could imagine this should have been a disaster. And long story short, it was. We don't talk anymore, but that's beyond,
right.
But I can say this person that there's a lot of animosity and like this whole drama there. I will still we don't talk, but I will give her credit for maybe having the most impact on my life of anybody. And really it's because I didn't know I was deconstructing, but now that you look back, like you said, you kind of see yourself deconstructing and asking questions. And she was like really big into the DC and Chicago queer community. She had dealt with these kind of things her whole life. She could have just been angry and kind of been like, you dumb motherfucker. But she wasn't. She would let me ask and even be pompous, in my Christian, assuredness.
Yeah.
And and there were just weeks and weeks and weeks where her response was, well, why?
Yeah.
And she would just gently, just through Socratic method, just keep bringing me to these places where I would either have to find a solution or find a reason, or as she knew, because she was smarter than me, there was no solution. Like she was just walking me down. She was walking me to the edge of the dock every time.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I was too dumb to see it.
That's the right way to do it,
I still remember being aggressive. Like, well, because this. And it's like, well, okay, but why?
Yeah.
Well, and it was just like, fuck.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, cult experts say that that's what you have to do. You have to ask questions to people rather than beat them over the head with facts, because that doesn't work. Like,
you back an animal into a corner, they're going to fight back.
Yeah.
It's human nature.
But you got to like poke the bear a little bit in the bear of the brain, to be like, okay, like you said, why? What a simple question, why?
Yeah.
Why does the earth have to look like it's, so old? Why did why were humans made, Adam and Eve made at, adult reproductive age? Why? Just, you could ask why for almost every verse
all
in the
day.
Bible,
for every verse,
and,
but through that process, I came to that cyclical thing that we all do as we're deconstructing, where it's, because the Bible says.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, now explain to me how because it's the word of God. We'll explain God.
Yeah.
And then you get into the larger ones. And then again, you eventually get to the edge of the dock and you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
And you can go pretty deep on that. You could be like, well, why is the Bible true? Why do you think the Bible's true?
Was it.
Yeah. And then
that's when you get into those circular arguments where you're explaining God from the Bible and Bible from the God. And but again, it's all in a vacuum. And the second they ask you to come outside of that, it all falls apart.
Well, you just got to have faith.
Yeah, that's when you have to have faith.
Yeah. And so it all falls apart.
That's when you're arguing, sorry, but when it's somebody like that.
Yeah.
When it was us in our living room, we could get to the just have faith because we all had faith.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point.
I tell her to just have faith, and she's like, well, no, I don't.
I'm not satisfied with that. Yeah.
Once again, fuck. God, right. You got me again.
Yeah. So I mentioned on my episode that I had like a nail in the coffin, and for that it was just finding out that there was a Noah story. Speaking of Noah, that really that there was a story before Noah, like way older,
Gilgamesh,
very, very similar, right? And so, which for me, that was just like the final nail. It was after a long series of asking why. I'm like, wow, there's too many fucking whys here. Did you have any kind of, maybe it was different for you, but did you have any kind of emotional reaction to coming to the realization that, maybe
first off, it's interesting because I studied the Epic of Gilgamesh and Western Civilization, 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I went through that piece long before you did, but because I was so entrenched at that time, I used Gilgamesh to be like, well, see, the flood's real.
Right.
Well, does it matter the differences in years? No. And so I used it to justify, but again, you have to stop your brain at some point.
Yeah.
I actually used it to justify, which was completely asinine, but
yeah. Well, and you and I went through a major flooding event in 1993. I mean, and I know that because I can recite the date to you because it was so impactful.
My grandma's house got wiped out.
Oh yeah, like we've got pictures. I mean, I found pictures in Dad's shit from that time, and like
like in canoes going by the roof.
Yeah, like the museum down by the museum and stuff, like where stuff was underwater, and it was a big thing. Of course, you're going to tell stories about that, but it didn't mean the whole fucking earth flooded.
Floods happen, turns out.
Yeah.
Again, that goes back to then understanding that kind of allegorical, this really happened. And was it an ice age thing? Was it just a normal event like you and I went through? But you don't have meteorologists and you don't have internet.
Yeah.
And you're not writing books. So these things now become passed down through stories.
Yeah.
And and it's like, when you talk about it logically, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It
Right.
turns out,
Yeah.
you know?
But no, emotional issues, trauma. Did you
You
feel
know,
any of that or not? Or was just like,
mine was more that slow crawl towards, I don't know, assuredness is not the word.
freedom, I think is
Confidence.
the word. Okay.
But yeah, But I mean, it's because I never came out. I never like made a big statement. I know you went through a lot of anger because we all saw it on social media there for a little bit, which is very normal.
Yeah, it is normal because
You're
once you,
coping in very healthy ways now.
yeah, I feel I'm better these days. But no, yeah, I think it's normal. It's like a phase. It's a phase called the angry atheist
Yeah,
phase. It's like once you realize that everything that you've been told, I don't know, for me,
it
all
should
my
piss you up.
life is a lie, and then you
Yeah,
start thinking about a lot of things. Like, wow, I volunteered a lot of fucking time to this thing. I've given a
I
lot of
never
fucking
had that.
money to this, and I was not happy. I mean, because I have a little justice streak in me where I desire
You
to
do.
see
Oh God,
true
you do.
justice. I mean,
Yeah,
Old Testament justice.
Old
So
Testament justice. But the thing is, who are you getting your revenge on? At this,
that's the
is it God
thing.
that
I
you
mean,
believe in? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, exactly. I mean, I'm like,
yeah,
damn it.
I'm mad at God. That's not real.
I don't have a God to be mad at,
Yeah.
and I don't even tell people to go to hell now because that doesn't mean anything. Like
No.
if I'm angry, I'm like, oh, go to hell.
How do you
It
handle
just
God bless you on the sneeze? Do you just go with it?
So we had a whole discussion about that as a family, not too long
Really?
ago. Yeah, because somebody sneezed and said, "God bless you." I'm like, do we care about that? I'm like, I don't really care, but and then, you know, um, the wife was like, well, we would always say Gesundheit because she spent time in Germany growing up, and I'm like,
Ah,
what the fuck does Gesundheit mean? We look it up; it means health. Like, oh, have good health.
did not know
And
that.
so now, as a kind of a joke, we don't. There's no restrictions or anything. If somebody says "bless you," that's fine or whatever. But I'll usually just say health. just to be quirky, and be like,
I like it.
or Gesundheit, but
I like it.
um, or maybe nothing. I know on Seinfeld they talked about this at one point, and they
Yes.
ended up going with "You're so good looking."
You're so good looking.
So I think it could be. That's what the freedom of breaking out of these boxes is that you can create your own fun things to
Yeah,
do, and
much
it
like we said
doesn't.
before.
Yeah. So
But no, to answer your question, it was that mine was more of a steady.
okay.
And I think because too is that I didn't have both parents 100% bought in like you did. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, so it was like, I would say my, the intensity of like Pentecostal evangelicalism was worse,
Mm-hmm.
but I also had my Bob Dylan, movie loving dad on the other side. So
Yeah.
I was like, there was always a light at the end of the tunnel, even though I ran in the opposite direction many times.
Mm-hmm.
So mine was more because of the fear of, it's like, because the same way you can never know there is no God,
Yeah.
can you really know there isn't a God?
Yeah.
And instead of approaching this logically, it would be those years of, well, I don't pray anymore, and it was
Yeah.
like, so 10 years have gone by since I've said a prayer,
Uh-huh.
but I'm on a plane and then there's some turbulence,
Oh, the
and it
old
was like,
no atheist in foxholes, that type of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so it was like, so there was a long period of like just like a slow separation there
Yeah.
of happening. It was like prayers during turbulence every time.
But then
So like prayers half the time. So
yeah,
like prayers 10% of the time.
but then you're just covering your bets, right? You're just hedging your bets. You're
That's
not,
it.
you're
Well,
not
then you realize
really.
it's superstition.
Well, yeah, and then you realize, like, well, wouldn't God know that I didn't really believe anyway
Yeah.
whenever I said
And
that?
that's
So that's where the
when
wager
I
just really
eventually,
falls apart,
again, my deconstruction is not super sexy because it just starts becoming logical, like you just said.
Yeah.
Like you start looking at myself and being like, oh, well, I'm just being superstitious
Yeah.
and just covering my ass,
Well, I
and
mean,
it's like,
do you look at other
yeah,
superstitious things you do in life now? Like sometimes I
yeah,
do, and
yep,
I mean, it happened at Thanksgiving. We didn't have turkey. It was a deal because I mean, we were fine with it. We had brisket, but
way better than turkey.
but
Not even close.
the mother-in-law was not thrilled, and it was kind of like, you know what? It's our house, and we decided that none of us like turkey. I mean, it's okay. It's got quality protein. It's fine. But well, we didn't care. We don't
No,
want to do that. We'd rather have
you're in
things that
Kansas
we
City.
enjoy.
Listen,
Yeah, right. I
some burnt
know.
ends.
Kansas City, you got to do that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
there's nobody running around going, man, you should try the turkey over it. Nobody's saying that here.
Well, and there's a mild OCD. I think that a lot of people experience this when life, because there are certain things, and it's interesting because this is kind of like a microcosm of religion. Religion, essentially comes about, and I'm not teaching anybody on this podcast anything, is, we're in the Fertile Crescent where we don't understand why we didn't get rain so we need to do something to get rain.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now I'm doing that with turbulence. And
Yeah.
it's like, and so I still do this. I will still notice my little superstitions.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with religion,
Mm-hmm.
but just like maybe something happened that day that you can't explain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, did it happen because I chewed 2 pieces of gum that morning?
Mm-hmm.
And did it happen because and you start putting these coincidental things together. So yeah, and I think because of that past coming out of what I did, I'm acutely aware of superstition.
Well, and I think that's good. It allows you to continue to ask questions about little things. I mean, one day I prayed to the tooth fairy on the way to work for green lights. I got 3 in a row, dude. 3. So obviously, tooth fairy,
And it
real.
starts clicking.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm like, oh, or maybe this is all bullshit, And so maybe it's coincidence because I don't know if I've shared this with you, but there is a 2-hour long Julia Sweeney special about her leaving Catholicism. And actually, she went on a similar journey. No, I haven't shared that with you. Okay, it's from like 2008, 2009. Actually, pre-new atheism movement. So but we watched it the other night, like we watched a movie, and it was good. And she's funny, and she talks about being raised in the Catholic Church. But then she got to a point where she was kind of fed up with not getting some answers, and then she thought she'd explore much similar to you, where she went all over the place. She went to mosques and temples and all sorts of places, just trying to find out, and like dabbled in the New Age movement a little bit. And
we want answers. That's how humans are built.
Yeah, I mean, and kudos to her for being willing to ask those questions, but and then getting to the point, she's like, oh, maybe there is no God, maybe there are actually coincidences.
Well, and that's not the hardest thing, and that's why I don't fault somebody like certain family members, or as long as you're not weaponizing your faith, which much harder to do in this day and age. But humans are built to find answers. That's what we do. It's an evolutionary process.
Yeah.
And here is the biggest question there is, and there's no answer. And some people just can't sit with that.
I know.
And it's understandable.
Yeah. You want to be sure.
But I mean, but don't cross the bridge then to creating this theology, that's attacking marginalized communities.
Yeah.
It's like we take a big leap from that I can't explain to gay people shouldn't be married.
Right.
Like, how the fuck did you get to that? But
well, that's cultural worship,
but the seeking part that's human nature. That's you can't fault anyone for that.
Yeah. You and I are both a member of the Dead Dads Club. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Dead Dads Club. Sorry.
Dead for a
minute. And that happened, like, your dad died after, right? After all of this, I think that's.
Yeah.
So how did you deal with death and stuff post faith?
How do I deal with death? So there is John Donaher is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor. He cornered George St. Pierre. He's kind of I don't know who to compare him to. If you're a sports person, Phil Jackson. He's this guru of mixed martial arts.
Okay.
That is, he's amazing. He's super autistic. He takes you where you need to go. Just like the way he breaks down and studies. There's nobody like him. He's just known as the best coach.
Right.
And he was on Lex Friedman's podcast actually. And, they were talking essentially about fear, and death comes up, and Donaher does not fear death. And he was like, well, how do you not fear death? And Donaher explained, when I say I don't fear death, that doesn't mean if I got thrown off a building, I wouldn't be screaming and flailing. He's like, that is a natural reaction.
Yeah.
If somebody pulls a gun, I'm going to shit my pants.
Yeah.
Those are natural reactions because you don't want to die. again, it's an evolutionary process to fight death, as it should be.
Yeah.
But then he was like, but the actual death does not scare me at all. And he's like, well, why is that? And he goes, because it didn't scare me before I was born.
Yeah.
I was like, he's like, there's no reference there. I have no idea what it is. And now I'm in this phase and now I'll be in that phase, you know? And he was like, and why are we conjuring up he's like, we conjure it up because we don't know, like we just talked about. Yeah. He's like, but if you step back and look at these processes, like, why is it any different than before you were born? And you didn't give a shit.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I know, I didn't. I mean, I think Mormons actually have a different philosophy about that. But
there's a lot of different philosophies. But I mean, once again, ask them to explain it.
Right.
It's like, you know, and so, I mean, I think that was my process was I didn't go into this negative place. I mean, the negative part is clearly you won't see this person again.
Sure.
So you realize it's you.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that that's any less important. Like grief is hugely important. And the loss of a person for you and your children and your you know, like that's huge. And it shouldn't, I'm not saying that lightly, but we deal with that here as a living person. What he's going through, to me, is fertilizer. Yeah. You know, and that's kind of a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It might be the most beautiful thing.
It might be. I mean, you know, there is something beautiful to think about. We came out of the fertilizer, so to speak, and then we lived our life, and then, you know, we die. And then we go back and we become something that, hopefully, if we don't completely destroy this place, you know, that future microbes and bacteria will be able to evolve into after we nuke everything. But you know what I mean. You know.
The exact line. Jason Isbell has this line in one of his songs, and just something is to simply cease to be. And that sounds pretty good to me.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Because he just talks about the exhaustion of living and you know, and it's just like, you know, and then instead of stressing about all these things, it's just like, how great is just this, like, I just think of it as almost like a warm nothingness, you know? Like,
yeah, I've read a little bit about what happens when we die. So apparently there's chemicals that like DMT,
chemical side.
Like the DMT that our body makes this, and it kind of like slowly releases it, and I'm like, oh, death, where is thy sting? Like, this sounds really cool, actually, you know. So you get high one more time before you leave.
Evolutionary process,
you know.
You get higher than you've ever been.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I look at dogs. I'm a big dog lover. I'm a big dog fan. And I had to learn at a young age, like, you know, growing up on a farm, we would have these dogs that, you know, whether it was through old age or injury or whatever, like they knew when they were going to die. I was talking about a friend with this recently.
Oh, really?
He's had a couple of dogs die. Like they know it's coming, you know, and they would always and cats will do this too. They'll just go off to the woods. Yeah. Or they'll go, we had this one corgi, I remember, that got under the porch. And I still remember being a little kid and being like, well, fucking, it's death. We've got to have a potluck dinner. So, you know, it's like, you got to be there for it. And I'm like crawling under the porch, like just to put a hand on it. And my dad would have to explain, like, no, it knows what's happening. It doesn't want you around. Yeah. It's entering into that next phase. Right. Like dogs don't want that. They don't want you to hold them as they're dying. They're like, they know what it is and they're cool with it. Mm-hmm. That's, you know, it's kind of a beautiful thing.
I hope I get to that point, you know. Like, well, I'm just going to go off to the woods now.
Yeah. You know, we hear a shotgun blast.
Yeah. I had a couple more things that I want to be respectful of your time. So if I'm going on, I know you and I could talk forever. So I wanted to find out about how your relationship is with your mother. This sounds like therapy. But I mean, I know that she's pretty religious. I mean, obviously you don't go to Ark Encounter and enjoy it unless you're unless you're a fan.
Recommend it.
You're part of the fan club. So yeah, how's that work out? Is it one of those like we just don't talk about it type of things, or what?
Yeah, it is the best way to say this. So there's mental health and things that come into play, and then there's the way you're raised, the way she was raised. You know, and all, I mean, we can, and again, I won't talk about it publicly because it's not my story to tell, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But I think I have this we've been talking a lot about logic. And I
Yeah.
think an emotional intelligence. And it would be one thing to say, well, I figured it out when it comes to faith and this stuff, but then not
Uh-huh.
apply. You'd be a real asshole to not apply that to the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So I don't, it's like, again, it's like I could harbor this ill will and I could say, like, how dumb, like you said, oh, I wasted all this time and resources in this
Uh-huh.
belief system. But she was going after like this again, that's how she was raised.
Yeah.
So of course she's going to do it. And then I think she moved from Baptist to Pentecostal because she had a lot of health issues. So now she's
Mhm.
looking for an answer, and found these
Yeah.
placebos, and so
Right.
it's like, if I just like was very selfish and in myself, it could be a very negative thing, but instead it actually brings out empathy just
Yeah.
to be like, because if she was doing it for those reasons, she wasn't doing it to weaponize it against abortion. She
Yeah.
wasn't like putting MAGA signs in her yard. Hers was for these very
She's a sweet
real,
woman,
they're not
yeah.
real reasons, 'cause it's funny,
She
but it's also,
yeah.
you see where it came from.
Yeah.
Well, so
Her
I'm
heart's
even
in the
like,
right place.
yeah, would you like to wave a magic wand and have some things be different? Of course, everybody would. And I think that's the
Mhm.
other thing. I was never molested.
Yeah.
I was never rich, but I never had to worry where a meal came from.
Right.
It's like, it just seems kind of shitty to complain, you know?
Yeah. I did get a chance with my parents to have that discussion. They died before all this happened for me.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't look back at that time like you. I don't look back at it as like, oh, it's their fault or anything.
Yeah.
I see them as they became a victim to the same generational mind
Yeah.
virus that,
Absolutely. Yeah.
everybody else has,
They didn't walk into like that Bible store in the mall as an atheist and be like, wait a minute, I can really
What,
fuck my kids if I if
yeah.
I start
Yeah.
becoming a Pentecostal. Oh, I'm going to play the long game and really put some trauma in here. Like,
This'll do it. Yeah.
yeah, no, that never crossed. In fact, it was the opposite. Like,
Yeah.
to this day, she
No.
prays for me because she
Mhm.
loves me and worries for me.
Yeah, yeah. I just argue that the idea of what people believe in is different from what that book says. Their idea of Jesus or
Oh,
Christianity,
okay.
you know, comes from church and community, and I would argue a natural evolutionary process where you're trying to get along with others because that's what's good for society, which is good for
Oh,
you.
yeah.
It's how we continue on, right? Um, but that's different than what that book says. That book says all sorts of bad shit, both New Testament and Old Testament, so and of course, if you go an hour a week and maybe start with the New Testament when you're reading it, well, there's a reason for that, because you don't want to get into the old mythology, because holy shit, you
But
know.
was it Patton Oswalt that said he loved to read the Bible because he's like, I'm a Tolkien fan. He's like, it's like, also Fertile Crescent torture porn. Like, why wouldn't you read this? It's
Right?
like,
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I don't blame them, and I'm glad that you don't either, and I'm glad
yeah,
that you can still have like you see that she's coming from a good place, and so therefore you don't have any, like, my sister and I never talk about this issue. Like, I've brought it up, but we have not actually talked about it, and I find that a little weird, and I think that maybe she doesn't really want to talk about it, and
that's my
I'm
mom
kind of
would
okay with that, I
tiptoe
guess.
over the last few years. And again, I think there was also the thing where I never made any big pronouncement, so I never
Yeah.
went at them aggressively. So they've never come at me aggressively. And it's just like,
Hmm.
and I see this thing as we get older, a lot of them are going to church less and less. They're not really, I don't think they're deconstructing, and it's definitely there, but
Yeah.
they're much more casual. Than
Yeah. Not
I,
so
I do like
regimented
Nate
about
Bargatze had part of a stand up. I think his last stand up where he was like, my parents became Christian in the 90s, which was the most Christian.
the most Christian,
They were
right?
more
Yeah.
Christian than Jesus.
Yeah, no, like, I watched that special and it was great because I related to it so much, because he
Yeah.
has that whole thing about how he was wasn't he the
Yeah.
oldest? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how he had a younger sister, and then he also casually mentions like a brother. But he was like about how like tattoos were a no-no, and then
Yeah.
you know, my sister got a tattoo before I did. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, dad was still alive then. And I was like,
Wait, are you quoting Bargatze, or did that really happen?
No, both.
Really?
So yeah, yeah. So,
I do not see her getting a tattoo, and I don't know your
oh,
sister that well, but
well, she
really?
has two. She has two actually.
That's fascinating. That's what I'm saying. You kind
Yeah,
of let, okay, well, this is
yeah,
okay now, but we still hold
yeah.
these. Like, yeah,
Right. Yeah. Like, and dad would always make a big deal about tattoos and about how they were, no good. He didn't have any, obviously,
yeah.
and I remember my uncle showed up and he had just gotten a new one and dad kind of like gave him a little shit about it. But, that was different. That was brotherly love stuff. But,
Well, and
there was,
I'm covered, as you know.
yeah, yes, I know. Yeah.
And I've seen other
Oh, I've
people.
seen it all.
I think you gave me a tattoo. I said it in a sexy voice, but it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But I've talked with a lot of other people, even people who are close to me, and tattoos, drinking, not to the point of like alcoholism or something, but just doing the things that we weren't allowed to do. And the reason is just always because I fucking can. They're like, I
Yeah.
don't want to be told I can't.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't come from that, you don't understand that mindset. That mindset seems a little destructive unless you've been there, and maybe it still is destructive. But
yeah, well, I mean, for me, it was it was a little bit of that, and a little bit of I wanted to get an answer to the question, what does it feel like to get a tattoo? Because I've always heard things. You see, it's almost like a movie trope or something like that, and I'm like, well, what does it feel like to get a tattoo? What would I get? What is something that I would get that I don't think I would regret in 5 years, 10 years, or whatever, And so, and now I'm thinking about the next one, and I think the only thing stopping me is I don't know what I would get. I've got an idea, but I'm still working through it. I'm kind of interested in the sleeve. What'd you say?
Celtic cross.
Celtic cross. Yeah. I just know that I can't do
Jesus fish.
Fuck no. No ichthus for me.
Get a Jesus fish with X eyes.
Yeah, well, they do have I've seen the on the cars they have the Jesus fish with the feet.
Oh yeah,
so
also
that could work.
Yeah.
It'd be like, so it's like those MAGA hats that actually say something like
different.
Black Lives Major look, Black Lives Matter, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I just wanted to answer that question, and and my answer is, well, not bad. It was fine. It was pretty cool, and I like it. It's probably the thing that I like most about my body.
Yeah,
that I have some art on it.
Literally part of you, but it's a part of you that you got to decide on, and you got to. And I know you're a fan of art. You used to paint, and there's kind of there's the art of it.
Shittily painted, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's a part of it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you just gave me an idea of what I could put. Oh, but the missus is gonna hate. Yeah, the plunger skull. Yeah.
Giant back piece.
Oh fuck. Kids, you ready to go to the pool? Because daddy's got something I want to show the world. Take it off, and there's a skull and a plunger. Yeah. Wow. I still have that painting. It should be down here. Oh shit. I need to go back to my notes. Sorry about that.
You could get your name, but in like metal.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing I was going to say is that, like, you have to be now in the oh, well, I don't know, like there is calligraphy depending on the style of metal, really.
It's
like this
the font,
is
the metal font.
Like, yeah, there's all sorts of different things, but you can't really do any pop culture stuff anymore because you never know if the band that you really like is going to turn up like being a serial rapist or something. And you're like,
very true.
What am I going to do with this? Like, and then you're Googling blackout places,
Yeah, I was going to get a replacements lyric. I think we're kind of safe at this point with them. So, although you never know.
The replacements? Yeah, you're pretty safe, but you might give it another 10 years just to be really, really on the clear. I mean, I'm glad I didn't get that Cosby tattoo. That's all I'm saying.
You're Hillman. Hillman 96. Classic.
Politics today. You and I, we just come from a different place that back then it was part of our lives. mixed in with religion and just small town living. I mean, I've seen the numbers go from anywhere to like 3,500 to
I think
we
it was
may have
five.
five at the
Were in the
peak.
90s, and now it's down to like 3,500.
Yeah, so it's not big.
No.
I mean, I've been to concerts bigger than that.
Yeah.
So often.
Yeah. Often, if you think about it, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
But we've also watched from a distance, since you and I both moved away, that they've also kind of become more right wing MAGA.
Yeah.
We like it's another religion, and I don't
Yeah.
know if you're familiar with the term synchronism. I'm sure I said that right. It's where it's basically how religions evolve. Really, it's like you take a piece here and you take a piece there, and then eventually that starts to make like a new thing. And I've gotten to the point that I start to think of MAGA more as almost like another denomination of.
Absolutely. Well, this is when you made your comment earlier about culture and religion have to be separate. I would say by and large, I mean, there's other points in history where that is not true at all, especially if you look at portions of Islam or you look at the Catholic Church in certain areas. But this is the first time I think within the American experience, you're true for 250 years. What you said, I don't think it's true anymore.
Yeah.
And it's for what you're just saying.
Yeah.
And it's,
how do we,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, I mean, how do we reach those people, not to beat them over the head with facts? Because you and I both know that's not going to work.
It's not going to happen.
But you and I both came to our conclusions
by
asking questions. How do you get people from where we grew up to ask questions?
So I think I'll start that, and then I want to work backwards and talk about the cultural religion aspects. I actually think it's important and it's dangerous and it needs to be talked about.
Okay.
But when you say, how do you get people there? Conservatives, by and large, cannot be empathetic unless it affects them personally. And I've always made this argument, and you talk about like, you look at a McCain or the second Bush and why there are certain immigration policies were not in line with the Republican Party at large. Well, they were border state Republicans. So they had a different understanding. Right. You look at, one of the most evil, we won't get into name calling, but let's talk about Dick Cheney, rest in hell. It's real, but, he's a war criminal. Fuck him. But, but if you look at him, and he is this incredibly far right, he's ushering us into this darker age, except for there was one thing that he really didn't kind of agree with everybody in his circle on. Gay rights. Why is that?
Well, it's kind of weird since he had a daughter who was gay, right?
So when things affect you personally. So I have never seen as many people recently, and I've gotten off of social media, but just in talking with people back from where we're from, start to turn against the MAGA movement. Racism wouldn't do it. Anything globalism wouldn't do it. But what he was doing with soybeans. And then,
really?
Then, the tariffs, now the cost of tractors and the cost of agricultural what's the word I'm looking for?
Implements.
Implements. Yeah. This cost, even the cost of parts, not just new tractors, but the cost to work on these things.
Right.
And so it's starting to hit them in the pocketbook. As you know, I work in healthcare. The big, beautiful bill, this is not, it's kind of being talked about as theoretical. Democrats are, they're making stuff up. It's not going to be that bad. We're contractors in what I do. We have 1,200 hospitals across the country. Every single one of them are dealing with this right now. Even the most conservative MAGA C-suite people, they understand the math. They know it's coming and they're prepared for it.
Well, I've seen some reports of
MAGA people.
Yeah, I've seen some reports of small, like rural hospitals starting to close. Now
it hasn't even started, and they set it up to be within a budget that would happen after the midterms. So there's a reason for that. Also, it's very sneaky, but people know it's coming and they're preparing in advance. So to answer your question, I know this is kind of cynical and defeatist. We are not going to reach them until it hits them personally.
I'm afraid you're going to say that as the answer because I think I already suspected it, that they weren't. But doesn't that bothers the fuck out of me? Because the whole point of what we're talking about today is religion and faith, and about how
bother the fuck out of you.
The story of Jesus is one of empathy, I think. Right? And then if you can't be empathetic until you're affected personally, you're not really empathetic.
No,
You're just
not at
looking out
all.
for your own interest
You're
at
looking
that
at it's all
point,
survival.
Yeah. And that's what it's so frustrating to me because, I don't know if you noticed this. I'm not brown, but
Who are
man,
the that's it. You took the words out of my
it
mouth.
is wrong. It is wrong to
Who are in the crosshairs of MAGA right now? It's all marginalized groups.
yeah.
It is
Yeah.
so antithetical to what Jesus taught.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. But then that gets me to the bigger part I wanted to talk about. And I don't want to come across hyperbolic. I don't want to come, it's like you don't want to be like, well, yeah, because I have a lot when I say MAGA, it's different from conservative. I have conservative beliefs. I have very good friends who are conservative Republicans. MAGA is a
What?
different
They
yeah,
exist still? I didn't know that they existed. I mean, I'm getting to the
well,
point where I'm like, I don't know that they are real anymore,
they can't go
but
on Fox and separate. They have to talk about it behind the scenes.
oh, I got it. Yeah.
But what has happened, when you talked about the combination of culture, culture and religion, this is a fascist movement. And
Yeah.
if you just Google fascism, authoritarian, far right, but is going to bring in nationalistic iconography. You also have to, so many fascist movements will connect with a religion or the occult. And you do that so you can say, our leader is chosen by God.
Right.
What he says cannot be wrong. And so Christianity, as we know it in the United States, at least, and in a few other places, has completely moved into the Christo-fascist. I mean, this is the foundation of the fascist movement that we're seeing.
Right.
And don't push back and say, well, it's not that authoritarian. When unmarked men with guns are stopping U.S. citizens and asking for papers because somebody's brown,
Yeah.
that's North Korea. That's Russia.
Yeah.
This is happening on American streets. So don't tell me this is not authoritarianism.
Yeah.
Get out, miss me with that bullshit. So this is happening. And the classical liberal or the libertarian, the freedom fighting 2A, small government, they could separate themselves from this.
Yeah.
What keeps you to the point that you cannot separate? What is the thing that you cannot question? And if you look, your Gadsden flag is often next to a cross. And your flying eagle is often next to a Jesus fish. It is very purposeful that this religion, very Christian iconography, is being used by MAGA and the Republican Party. And if you want to know what that means, read a fucking history book.
Right.
This is not like some weird, I'm pulling this out of left field, authoritarian fascism works like, no, this is the playbook. We've seen this many times. And that is where we're getting past these fun debates that we used to have in the early 2000s in our living room to, okay, this is fucking scary.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Christianity has now been given a seat at the table. Again, very smart by the Trump administration.
Well, it's not just Trump. This has been going on for
it's
decades,
been going on. We talked about this earlier, late 70s, early 80s, moving into that Christian movement of getting the larger voting bloc. But they never had a seat. They were always used for their votes.
That's true. When you create an office of whatever, Christo-fascism.
Think how long abortion and stopping Roe versus Wade was brought up. Nobody ever did shit about it. It was enough to get them to vote, and we'll sprinkle a little fairy. And then we got to vote for it again, so you can't solve the problem.
Well, the same with immigration. I mean, Reagan was
now
talking
they're
about
solving the problem. Now they've brought them. Now they have a seat at the table, which has been very fascinating for people like us to see, because now we're watching these Christians who should be empathetic, who should be protecting marginalized communities. They're going, oh, I got a little piece of power. Oh, this tastes so good. I can overlook that. I can overlook the head of the Department of quote unquote war, who every time he gets married, it's because he's had a kid with somebody, that he was married to somebody else. And let's not talk about the $50,000 hush money after he raped somebody and 3 other women at that conference separately getting rape kits and saying that he touched them. Let's not talk about the tornado of fucking immorality that is Donald Trump. We can overlook all that because we got a little bite of power. We got, now there's a means to an end. And at that point, I have to go from us having like an engaging conversation to fuck off.
Yeah.
It's so hard to even engage somebody that says they're a Christian but likes Donald Trump. Come on.
I've struggled with that, right? Because I'm like, well, I know how I used to think about just things, thinking differently than I do now. And then I think, oh, well, I should give them a little bit of grace or whatever
Yeah.
because, and some patience, because I realize that that takes time. And I had to, like, for me, I had to get there myself. Like, it just, I don't
Oh, I
know. I
needed
don't really
grace. I
have,
needed patience.
yeah,
You know.
but now I'm like, wow, really? Are you not
But
paying
I
any
wasn't
fucking
saying "fuck
attention?
you" to the
It's just,
First, Fourth, and 14th Amendment while I was. That's a different thing.
yeah,
You know, it was like I needed grace because I was dumb. You know,
yeah,
and I was figuring things out. And it's like, well, no, this person doesn't care about due process or Fourth Amendment search and seizure. And I'm just like, we don't have time for grace. Like,
yeah.
get your shit together, man.
I know,
Like
but
it's yeah,
is that going to
I'm kind
work?
of in a bad place. That's why I got off social media. Like,
Yeah, I that's fair. I get that. Like social media has pros and cons for sure, and there are days where it's more con. Like today was, man, I was on for a little while. I was like, okay, time to time to step off because I'm just reading. I don't know what happened. I don't catch up with the news. I kind of wait. I do the Tim Ferriss thing. I wait till things bubble toward me. I'm like, holy shit, it's an avalanche today. What the hell
well,
happened? There's
so
just
the
like
one
a
thing I
lot
kept
going
looking
on.
at it, and so it's kind of like I let things bubble up, and it's like, there was a great, I forgot who said this quote. They were talking about social media and the things that like raise your blood pressure, and you see these things,
Uh
and they were like, yeah, and it's very important to see that. Like, you remember that post from 2 years ago, right? And you're like, he's like, exactly. He's like,
Yeah.
why are you getting on here, getting all upset about it? You're going to
hmm
forget about it in 2 weeks. So the news cycle is going to turn over in 24 hours. So
Well,
I've
there
been doing
are.
I let it bubble up to me.
Yeah, well, there are those that do remember the post from 2 years ago or 4 years ago or the pandemic and how people reacted. I mean, clearly there's some people on the right that are very, very mad about mask mandates that happened locally and at a
Yeah.
state level, but they were mad at Biden apparently. And I'm like,
Who was not president during the
uh, well, at least
pandemic.
not at the beginning.
So
I think it's a little dishonest to say that he wasn't president during the pandemic because he, at least not the beginning of it, but I mean, he did preside over the ongoing, the way out of it, right? But
yeah.
yeah, okay, so there are mass mandates on planes and buses and trains, I guess. It's like, okay, and how often do you use those particular services? You person of Southeast Kansas that hasn't left
Well,
the four states
exactly.
in like a
But
decade,
the other thing
you know.
is, when did you become an infection prevention specialist? Like what, and,
Yeah,
so, and me again, being in healthcare, I'm
yeah,
watching the 6 feet, the masking,
hmm
the foaming in and foaming out.
yeah,
And it's like, and this is why, and you'll watch, you don't see any liberals blaming Trump for those policies because we understand
yeah.
nobody knew what the fuck was going on.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
what we implemented, and I say we as almost as a country and sometimes as a world,
Yeah.
what are the basic IP practices that you might use in a hospital
Mhm.
to avoid
Mhm.
infection?
Right.
Now, in hindsight, was it all necessary? No, of course it wasn't all necessary. We
Mhm.
didn't know what the fuck was going on. So
Right.
why not implement the most basic infection prevention best practices?
Yeah.
It
I have changed.
again, it's logical,
Yeah.
but you find some way to connect to it politically, and
Right.
throw.
I have changed my mind a little bit on some mandates. Now, like the mandate for like work, we kind of sort of did that a little bit. It was like if you want to come in the office, you have to get the vaccine. I'm like, fuck, I'll never get the vaccine then. I'm just going to stay home. But but for those that wanted to, they felt that was a little unfair, and I kind of agree with that. I mean, I
No, I
I,
agree with you.
I struggle with the idea of bodily autonomy versus what do we do, what's best for society, and um, so.
Well, I mean,
But
it's
like, I think
Aaron
babies need to be
Rodgers is. There's
vaccinated
several
for.
reasons whatever. Say what you want about Aaron Rodgers, but
Yeah.
I remember him talking about this and being like, I am a first ballot unanimous Hall of Famer playing the hardest position in all of sports. I'm
hmm
in pretty good shape. Let me decide what I want to do with my body.
That's fair.
It's like, and it's, you're
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, he's not wrong.
Yeah.
And then you also look at the infection prevention rates of people who got it and if you could infect somebody else
Uh-huh.
and shit got real murky real fast. But here's the thing. And as we're talking about religion and we're talking about deconstructing, what if, Gene,
Uh-huh.
when new information comes to light, you can change your mind?
I can change my
And just
mind.
because you and I are like, you know what? We don't necessarily believe in a vaccine mandate. Well, now let me flip the script. Everybody on the left is going to call us a bunch of assholes.
I know. Yeah.
It's like, no,
Mm-hmm.
we can all move forward without it being political. What if we just looked at the science? What if, but you are
Yeah.
not allowed to change your mind. New information cannot come to light.
I love changing my mind. One of my job, what I do during the day, just dealing with, I just say I deal with computers. I mean, it's logic based.
Yeah.
It's fucking true or false all the time, right? And if sometimes though, something will go wrong and it's a weird quirk of the system. That doesn't mean that it's wrong or right. It means that you don't know what is right or wrong defined within those parameters, right? And so you get to like change your mind and be like, oh well, if I'm dealing with this like a little bit of code on this system, I might have to do it slightly different on another way. And I be like open to be like, it's just not one size fits all. And I just see so many parallels with religion and government, and then also the followers of political. I mean, I feel like everybody's a political junkie these days, whether they want to be or not, because you can't get away from it a lot of times, and you have to actually work hard to stay out of it, right? But you end up like these purity culture tests about who the right candidate is and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm like, why cannot we not all sit at the table together and try to find out a way to make this whole place better for all of us? And
anybody you talk
it's
to
frustrating.
outside of the squeaky wheel, far left, far right, I think agrees with you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we've seen. And I think but we were able to, both sides were able to kind of manipulate that and bring people back and forth. And this is what I tell my conservative Republican friends is that the MAGA and the Trump administration have gone so far that now that center is rising up more, the populist kind of movement is rising up more than it ever has. And we're seeing it. And I'm like, y'all are going to lose the Republican Party. And I don't know why I'm out here trying to protect you, but everybody kept it in check just enough, to like the bombastic people could be there. We'd pull you back over and the center kind of holds. I'm like, you motherfuckers have gone a little far. You've broken the narrative.
Yeah.
I'm like, and this is why, you're seeing the numbers of what we expect to see in the midterms, and red becoming purple and purple becoming blue. And it's a dangerous game.
It is a dangerous game. And Rand Paul, early this year. Yeah, I know. And
yeah.
I mean, I don't trust MTG, but some of the things she said recently, at least she's spoke out. I mean, she did say it out loud. Like we have to keep that in mind, right? I mean, but Rand Paul, he was like, the last time that we had tariffs, the Republicans didn't win anything for 60 years. So maybe this is not a good idea. And he was saying that very early on this year. And I think that
McConnell said that, which McConnell, we're on a podcast and people in my work could hear this, but the McConnell rule was actually when I completely lost faith in our entire political system. So my thoughts on him, I'll keep to myself.
Okay.
But even Mitch McConnell spoke out on the tariffs. And it was essentially like, instead of listening to this theoretical voodoo economic approach, read a fucking history book. Right. We know how they work.
Yeah.
This is, but it's like, but we're bought into this cult mentality. Again, how does that happen, Gene? Why are we people who have no idea what tariffs are willing to fight you? How did that happen? What pulled them in? And there is your Christo-fascist foundation.
Yeah, what pulled them in? Yeah. I don't know. It may be tied more to like just self-preservation.
Go back to where you grew up. Ask somebody from that church why they cannot disagree with Donald Trump. And it's not going to have anything to do with politics, I assure you.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. Which they probably, they'll say something and maybe they won't actually be following whatever that is,
No, it's religion. It's
Yeah.
hard to break. Don't get me wrong. I was a huge Clinton fan.
See, I'm trying to be the nice guy. I'm trying to be like, no, religion's not the root cause of all the bad things. But
It
I
kind
do
of
kind
is.
of feel pretty anti-theist a lot of the time, where I'm like, no, religion is the wrong thing, even with the nice people, even with
But
the
how beautiful
Methodist.
is that con?
Oh, it's
Like,
great. It's amazing.
you can connect a belief system to
Yeah,
this might not make a lot of sense to you, but you also this is what God wants,
right. Yeah,
and your own personal salvation depends on this. Well, now
yeah.
we can't. There's no conversation to be had. It's over. And
Well,
that's the
and
end.
I think all of religion boils down to trust. Is that, whenever, let's say you have a really bad addiction, right? And you're at rock bottom and you can't get out of it, and then somebody that you trust, that apparently looks like they have their shit together, they come
Mhm.
to you and they say, you know what, I really, I went to this church and they have like a addiction group, and you don't have to believe or anything, but it really helped me. And then you go and you find that you get structure, you get community, you get encouragement, and then
They're all good things.
eventually it kind of builds onto that. And same thing with prison. You're at absolute rock bottom at that point, I mean, you're not dead, but you're not free. And then, you read these stories of kind of a mixture of slavery and also freedom
Mhm.
in the Bible. And then, because what else are you going to do, right? And then you're like, oh, well, these are encouraging. So, like, it gives me hope, So, there's good things, but like the trust thing, eventually it all boils down to somebody else with trust that you trust tells
Yeah.
you that this is the way to go, and then you see that kind of reinforced either in religious beliefs or political ideologies. It's like,
Well,
well, that guy, he's a great business guy and he's a conservative, so I got to follow him or whatever. So
you're talking about that from people who have experienced this as an adult. The majority of the people we're talking about were taught this in their most formative years.
that's true. Yeah.
So forget that, like, back and forth. Can I see somebody and
Hmm.
trust them? It's beyond trust.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, that's why it's so hard to break with.
Mm. Well,
I
at
had
least you live in
a friend of mine's wife, similar area where we grew up with. I won't use any names,
uh-huh.
but somebody at some point in those years, and she grew up in a church much like ours, had told her, if you look in the mirror after midnight, you'll see Satan. And I don't know if that was
Cool.
actually a weird belief or if they were just fucking with her or
Right.
whatever it
Yeah.
is. But we talked about this. And the
Uh-huh.
reason we talked about this is because she is a grown woman who is intelligent, who
Yeah.
admits to this day she gets a little weird around a mirror after midnight. Because when
Wow.
you're told this from like
Yeah.
4 years old to 12 years old, this is
Yeah.
when you learn to walk. This is when you learned 1 + 1 = 2. This is
Hmm.
when you learned water is wet. This is when you learned how to pee and poop. This,
Yeah.
I mean, like, and when
Yeah.
you're told these things, how fucking hard is it? And how much trauma does it cause to separate from those? And now it's connected to a political leader and
Ugh.
political movements.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to win.
That's so hopeful. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
I'm
appreciate
very.
your insight on that. Oh, this has been a lot of fun, and I don't know that we solved any
Until it
answer.
wasn't.
Yeah, yeah. And now I'm just depressed. Thanks. No, you were back home recently, so I mean, how's it looking down there? Did you stop by the casino? You did stop by the casino, didn't you?
No, I
They
didn't. It was,
probably had drink specials. Yeah.
uh, I mean, if you want my honest, it was just, it was dark.
Okay. Yeah.
It was, there's a darkness pulling into town.
Uh-huh.
There's just, and I hate this because there's people I love that would just be so pissed at me for saying this, but it's just like, it's
Uh-huh.
just, I just felt like it used to be taken care of, I guess. Like it used to be,
Uh-huh.
it was just kind of like, you can just see everything's kind of run down and,
Yeah.
and
Even worse. I mean, it's been a
even
while.
worse.
I'll go down
Well, and
to.
you see what's going on. I mean, you see where we rank with I mean, what does Kansas say? It's like, thank God for Mississippi. That way we're not 50th in education. Like,
Well, I think
it's like, well, what
Oklahoma's
are we going to do?
49th, so
What can we do to turn this around?
yeah,
Vince McMahon's
just
wife.
just get
That's going to be
one
the
notch
answer.
higher. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, well, I do see the similarities about how you have to be impacted before you start thinking differently about
yeah.
your politics. And it goes back to the questioning thing. Like, you have to be personally impacted before you start questioning
Yeah, we did.
your religion. And it doesn't even have to be traumatic. It can just be
Yeah.
something that, somebody says, well, why? Like,
Yeah.
with your ex. And then it's like in your face, and you got to confront it, right?
Well, you know
And
what? And
so,
I think maybe that's, yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
no, I'm just saying, maybe it's not
Maybe
such a
that's
bad
where you
thing.
find your hope.
Yeah.
Is you're like, well, politically, that kind of brings me down. Like, we have to be so cynical because how would you change these people's mind? Your
Hmm.
entire podcast is about people who have turned away from religion. So it can happen.
That's true.
I mean,
It
asking the
it can
question,
happen.
asking
Yeah.
why, the
Yeah.
deconstruction, plant the seeds.
So, and I have had a former MAGA person on here. So I mean, she was JW and MAGA, so she had double whammy, right? So, by the way, quick side note before we wrap this up, you remember living at the college town? It was pretty great because we would get the mix of the missionaries. We'd get the J-Dubs one week, and then we'd get the Mormons,
Uh,
like the next week or
well,
so.
for anybody listening, the Mormons stopped coming to our house because Gene was so excited to invite them in and argue for hours. And it wasn't us, it was you. Like, I've never seen anybody be giddy when you would see the white
Yeah,
shirt ties.
yeah. I was just really into apologetics and reading, like,
Yeah.
like Hannah Graff did that um, book with Norman Geisler about, like, I think it was called The Handbook to Christian Apologetics, if
Oh,
I remember that.
Geisler. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
You were like the athlete who's just in the gym training for
just
hours. And like,
reading, yeah,
you
just
saw
reading.
them
No,
coming down the sidewalk on their bike. You're like,
now,
fuck.
granted, I was just regurgitating what
Yeah.
somebody else had said. I didn't really
We all
think
are.
about that,
We
but
all are.
but nowadays I try to, like, think more outside the box. Like, lately I've been given a thought to metaphysics and if that means anything, and I've come to the conclusion that
Oh.
no, it doesn't. It's the
No,
the
it
the
doesn't.
philosophy of science. I mean, it's interesting, but
Fascinating.
ultimately it seems a little unverifiable, and I'm
So
like,
theoretical physics is
I
what you're
don't
talking
care.
about.
Why? Well, like, why is there something rather than nothing, like that? That
Yeah.
question. That's a great question. Does it matter? It does not. Like, the answer to that question that can't be proven doesn't matter. So why do I care? And it's an actual valid branch of
Yeah.
philosophy that interests me, next to only with learning more about it. That's interesting, but it just, I don't feel like it has an impact. Why does things happen one way and not the other way, and I don't know. It's My understanding of it is very shallow. I give you that. But the little
Yeah.
bit that I've seen so far, I was like, yeah, I don't, just doesn't seem that interesting to me. But there are, but what's cool about it is that I've learned some things that I didn't previously know before,
Yeah. I
because I
wish
was
they go
always
deeper.
just like,
There's some importance there.
yeah, that you just, I don't know. It's nice to get out of the vacuum.
Yeah.
Like,
I used to think Descartes was silly, but then I understood, well, it's essentially trying to solve for what makes us
yeah,
human, what makes us
yeah,
conscious. It's
yeah.
well, and then this is why that's important then, as you go down that path of how many times have we mentioned evolution on this podcast?
Yeah, a few
And it's
times. Yeah,
not just evolution physical, from
yeah,
having a tail to not having a tail.
sure,
It's
yeah.
that we start understanding what makes us human and why we're drawn to religion because it gives an answer to something to which there is no answer. And humans have to have that process. We have to always look for this.
That's the
It's
thing, right? There is no answer. Like, there is
that's
no
what you get.
answer that I or you will ever get. Technically,
But it's cool to
yes.
understand that these neurons are
Hmm.
firing, trying to move
Hmm.
us towards that.
Right.
And that is, my mom's not a bad person. She's following her evolutionary process.
Yeah. But
And
even when
landing.
she dies, if God is real, she can't tell you.
Yeah, she'll haunt me.
Okay. Well, probably. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for spending time today and talking about all of this. This has been a wonderful recap. I hope it was cathartic for you. But
Yeah, because I don't talk about it that much.
yeah, I mean, honestly, in my day-to-day life, outside of the house, I don't either. not
Yeah.
really.
I hope it didn't come across like too much of an asshole when we got political. It's just,
No, I was hoping for that actually.
I'm not an online poster, and in real life, I'll give
Mm-hmm.
you a hug and shake your hand. And I believe going through it through empathy and asking why is the way to go. We're seeing things that are not, to use like, I don't like use catchphrases, but we're normalizing things that are not normal right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, it's troublesome, and it hurts the heart. I'll say that much, because we all have people in our lives that we care about that are younger than us, sometimes much, much younger, right? And you worry about their futures and like, well, what are we doing here? But
about like the Christians worshiping this president who comes out on Twitter or True Social, and just some of these just fucking insane, incendiary, and we're just kind of like, this is what we do now. Oh, wait, you're a Christian? 100%.
Yeah,
we're good. We're good with this. We're fine. Yeah. It means to an end.
Why?
And when Christianity now becomes a means to an end, that's when it's like, oh, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
There's no morality there.
I'm just gonna keep doing like what your ex did. I'm just gonna stick to the one word. Why? Why? If I get into a political discussion and have thoughts about that, I'd be like, well, why? We're going after all the brown people. Why? Well, because we should. Why? And then you get to this thing about like, I don't know, maybe borders are made up. So maybe you'll have that revelation that like, well, all of this, we're all in this together. Like that's what I really would, to me, that's the ideal society, is one where we all realize.
I think we have to be careful with who's listening to this podcast too, is there's nothing wrong with law and order. I mean, that keeps this civil society in line. Yeah. And, borders are completely made up, but they're kind of made up for a reason. And yes, if we were going after MS-13 members and rapists and, as we've been advertising, then like actually, nobody, who agrees with that? Literally fucking everybody.
I actually haven't heard the phrase MS-13 in easily 6 months. I've not heard that phrase.
But when we're going after people with visas and green cards who are here legally, who are getting no due process, it's like, okay, that's what I just want to clarify. That's what you're talking about.
Oh yeah,
because it's really easy just to jump in and be like, well, you just want open borders. That's not what I'm saying.
It's not that I want open borders. It's just that the idea of like, well, I live in Missouri, you live in Ohio, and the idea of like that there's some sort of magical thing that separates us is just distance. Really. That's it.
Yeah.
They're not real. And we weren't even the first people here anyway. I mean, it was obviously the Jews that came over, that were Mormons, the Jews that were Mormons that led to the, Naphtali. I don't know. Nephilim.
The Nephirium. We'll get into a whole other thing there. Is that the Giants? Is that what I'm recalling?
That's the. No, I'm talking about the story about
when Jesus visited the United States before it was the United States. Clearly,
I don't know. I have a Book of Mormon over here. I could go grab it and we could read it real quick. But if those guys would have came back,
St. Joseph, Missouri, that's like 50 miles from you.
No, it's in Independence.
Independence.
Independence is the Garden of Eden, is what
that's it.
Believed. Yeah. And I asked,
people are listening to this and they didn't know that.
I asked a former Mormon that, and they confirmed that. And I was like, we call that meth dependence. Like as like it's a shithole.
Its property value has gone downhill big time since Jesus was there.
Yeah. So.
Anyway. Last thing though, I have to say, you're kind of in a dark room.
Yeah.
And I can't tell if do you have a small goatee that's white and I can't see it, or are you going full Lemmy?
Oh shit, dude. Yeah. See, I was looking at photos earlier today and I realized.
Oh, there's some hair there.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, there's hair. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, since this is all audio, the middle piece under Gene's mouth is white. And because of where he looks like he has a Martin Van Buren Lemmy type combo type thing going. And kind of thinking maybe you should do it though.
I mean, I could.
That might look kind of cool because I was digging it.
Yeah. I just leave this down here and then
just take the middle. Just the mustache to the chops.
Yeah. Kind of like, isn't that how James had? Well, yeah, Lemmy. I think James Hetfield wears
Same
his kind of that
probably
way.
copy.
Yeah. Maybe you get a certain age after, man, I was looking at photos today and I noticed that like within 2 years time, like this has went from,
I'm
more reddish
white.
brown. Yeah. Well, you're a silver fox, so you got to go on.
Silver fox, baby.
Yeah. Anyway, dude. All right. Well, I've appreciated this. So I think we should wrap it up.
I got to wrap it up. We could keep going for another hour. But...
I know we could. All right. Well, I'm going to hit stop and then, and then I'll say bye to you. So, anyway. Right. And if you ever want to come back, it's good to me. So,
get in person.
All right. So, we definitely do that.